Some stories don't end. They echo back, waiting for someone brave enough to listen. Tonight, what if the voice calling your name isn't human anymore? Welcome to Midnight Crime Stories for Sleep, the home of DarkPulse, where crime meets mystery and every silence hides a truth. No matter where you're watching from, the US, Canada, or anywhere in the world, turn down the lights and let the story begin. The beginning of forgotten memories. The wind rolled off the Atlantic in long, hollow breaths, carrying the smell of salt and rust. Coldwater, Maine, a town that slept in fog and woke in whispers. Emily Harper arrived there with one suitcase and a head full of broken years. The doctors had called it a miracle that she survived the crash, but to Emily it felt like punishment. 10 years of memory, erased. Only flashes remained. A scream, a child's voice, the reflection of her own eyes in shattered glass. The taxi dropped her at an old coastal cottage perched above black rocks. Paint peeled from the porch, wind chimes clattered like bones. Ben, her husband, at least that's what he told her, waited by the door. He smiled, soft and reassuring, though his eyes never smiled with him. Ben, you'll like it here. Quiet, no one to bother us. Emily. It feels familiar. Ben. Maybe it reminds you of home. Emily. I thought this was home. A pause. The first uneasy silence. Inside, the cottage smelled of cedar and seaweed. The walls held pictures of a life she didn't remember. Wedding photos, beach picnics, her smile captured beside Ben's. She studied them like crime scene evidence. Every image felt staged, every frame slightly wrong. At night she couldn't sleep. The waves below sounded like footsteps climbing invisible stairs. Sometimes she woke to find the hallway light on, though Ben swore he hadn't left the bed. She began keeping a notebook, names, objects, fragments of dreams. White roses, blood on petals, a girl laughing in rain. Each morning the list grew stranger. This was supposed to be healing, a new start after trauma. But Coldwater had its own pulse, slow and secretive, like the heart of something buried. One afternoon, while unpacking a stack of old books, Emily heard a faint rattle inside the wall. She followed the sound to the corner near the fireplace where a wooden plank hung loose. Behind it lay a small rusted box tied with ribbon faded brown. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside, a diary. Leather cracked, pages yellowed, words written in delicate, slanted handwriting. The first line made her throat tighten. If you're reading this, it means they found me. She flipped the cover. The name signed at the end of the entry. Anna Harper, her own last name. Same handwriting as hers. She whispered the name like testing a memory. Emily. Anna. That night she waited until Ben slept and read by candlelight. The diary spoke of storms, of voices in tunnels, of a hidden garden no one must enter. Dates from a decade ago matched the years she couldn't recall. Every word crawled beneath her skin. The entries described someone being watched, someone followed, someone betrayed. At the margin of one page was a drawing of a small seaside house, her cottage. Next to it, a single sentence underlined twice. Trust no one who says they love you. She closed the diary, heart hammering. Ben stirred beside her. Ben. Can't sleep again? Emily. Just reading. Ben. You shouldn't stay up. It's bad for recovery. Emily. Who was Anna Harper? A beat. Ben. Never heard of her. But his hand gripped the blanket too tight. When he turned away, she noticed faint scratches on his wrist. Fresh. Over the next days, Emily walked through town searching for any trace of the name. At the local store, an elderly woman at the counter froze when Emily introduced herself. Emily. Hi, I'm Emily Harper. Just moved into the old coastal house. Old woman. Harper? She stepped back. You shouldn't be there. Emily. Why? Old woman. Because she never left. Emily. Who? Old woman. Anna. The bell above the door jingled as Emily stumbled outside, her heartbeat matching the crash of waves. Maybe it was coincidence, maybe collective small-town paranoia. But every corner whispered that same name. That evening she demanded answers. Emily. You knew the woman who lived here before us? Ben. Emily, drop it. Emily. People keep calling me Anna. Why? Ben, no, because you look like her, that's all. Emily. Then why do I dream her memories? He didn't reply. Instead, he reached for her shoulders, voice too calm. Ben, listen to me. Whatever happened before the accident, it's over. We start fresh. She nodded, but in her chest something broke open. If her mind was a locked room, the diary had turned the key. Rain hammered the windows that night. She sat alone, reading more. One entry described a secret under the floorboards. She followed the direction, heart racing, prying up old planks until her fingers hit cold metal. Another box, smaller, heavier. Inside, she found photographs of herself standing beside a girl with bright eyes. Written on the back, Anna and Lily, Coldwater School, 2013. She stared at the date. That was the year of her accident. The year Lily Gray disappeared, according to an old news clipping tucked between the photos. Headline: Teen missing from coastal boarding school. Police suspect foul play. Emily's breath shook. In the reflection of the window, her own face blurred with another's. Two women overlapping, one living, one lost. Outside, a foghorn wailed through the storm, low, mournful, endless. And somewhere far down the cliff, a single light flickered in an empty house across the bay as if signaling to her. She whispered into the dark. Emily. Who am I? The sea answered only with echoes. The night stretched thin until dawn, and with the first pale light she realized she hadn't been dreaming at all. In the sand below the cliff, letters had been drawn by the tide itself. Rough but clear. ANNA. Morning came thin and gray, the ocean wearing a veil of mist. Emily stood at the cliff rail with cold fingers and the kind of stillness that hurts. The tide had washed the letters away, but the name lingered in the air like salt. Anna. She told herself not to overreact. Coastal towns had stories. Wind wrote shapes in the sand all the time. But the diary, the photographs, the way strangers flinched at her last name. This wasn't wind. This was a pattern. Ben brewed coffee. He watched her over the rim of the mug as if measuring how much truth she could swallow. Ben. Rough night? Emily. I dreamt of rain and a bell, a hallway, lockers. Ben. Dreams aren't evidence. Emily. Sometimes they're directions. He smiled without warmth. Ben. We agreed on a fresh start, no more digging. Emily. I don't remember agreeing. A soft click as he set the mug down. The sound felt like a warning. She left the cottage before noon, walking the main road lined with shuttered bait shops and clapboard houses the color of weather. Coldwater's downtown had a library with a brass bell on the door and floors that remembered every footstep. Inside, old paper and lemon oil. A woman at the desk lifted her head as if the past had just walked in. Librarian. Can I help you? Emily. Yearbooks, any from the Coldwater School. Librarian. That building's closed. Emily. I'm researching local history. Librarian. History is heavier than people think. But she led Emily to a glass cabinet anyway. The spines were blue cloth stamped in gold. 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013. Emily opened 2013. The pages smelled like rain and dust. Faces smiled in frozen time. She found the section with student portraits and felt her pulse change. There, Lily Gray, dark hair, bright eyes, a slight tilt to her mouth like a question she never stopped asking. Beside Lily's picture, someone had pressed wildflower petals flat. They crumbled when Emily touched them, leaving a small brown stain shaped like a heart. Further back, candid photos, a fall dance, a science fair, a garden party. In one image, a girl with a scarf wrapped twice around her throat laughed beneath a trellis of white roses. A blurred figure stood just beyond the frame, almost cut out. The caption read, "Founder's Garden, Private Event." Her breath caught. The name in the diary, the garden, the dream of white roses spotted with red. Crime story, coincidence, or memory finding its way home? Librarian. Are you all right? Emily. Who took these yearbooks out last? Librarian. We don't circulate them. Emily. So no one reads them? Librarian. People read what they can forgive. On the inside back cover, a list of sponsors. Dr. Benjamin Cole, clinical consultant. The ink might as well have been a siren. She closed the book and felt the room tilt. Outside, gulls wheeled and cried. She walked until the library was a quiet accusation behind her. A hardware store, a diner, a church with a steeple stabbed into fog, then the iron gates of the cold water school, locked, chained, and still. No trespassing signs sagged like tired warnings. She could have turned back. Instead, she followed the fence to where the ground dipped, and the chain link had been mended badly. The wire gave with a groan. She slipped through and crossed the courtyard where weeds had learned the shape of stone. The main hall door resisted, then relented. Her footsteps echoed down a corridor lined with lockers, the doors dimpled and dented by years of secrets. She ran her fingers over the metal. Dust lit the air like snowfall. There was a smell here she remembered and didn't. Disinfectant over old rain, teenage perfume over fear. A bell hung at the far end, tarnished. She reached up and touched it. The cold went into her bones. In the administration office, a filing cabinet leaned crookedly. One drawer stuck, the other open to a scatter of records, incident reports, missing persons inquiry. She read names until she found the one gravity had been pulling her toward. Gray, Lily, 10/19/2013. The page was thin from being handled too often or too carefully. Most of the text had been photocopied so many times the letters were ghosts. But a note at the bottom remained, written in pen jagged with speed. Do not contact AH per directive. AH, her heart argued with her head. Anna Harper, or something else, but the cupboard where doubt lives was bare. From the hallway, a soft thud. She froze, listening. A door settling? Or someone just now remembering to breathe? Voice faint. You shouldn't be here. She turned. Nothing but the hall inhaling and exhaling dust. She stepped out and the world narrowed to a strip of lockers and the remembered sound of laughter dying too fast. A corkboard at the crossroads of two corridors still held brittle flyers. Tutoring, auditions, a lost scarf. Pinned crooked in the center was a photograph of the Founder's Garden, colors leached by light. Across the glossy surface, a line of black marker, thick and unforgiving. I know what you did that night. Her skin prickled. Whoever wrote it wanted to be seen. Whoever left it wanted someone to read it late, alone, and feel the floor tilt. Something rattled behind her. A locker door easing open on its own weight. Inside, a tiny metal tag had fallen onto the shelf. She picked it up. 2 stamped letters, A.H. The building held its breath. The air changed, as if even walls could listen. She put the tag in her pocket and left the way she came, the fog outside curling around the doorway like a tongue. On the street, her phone vibrated. No listed number, just a message. Stop. A second message. It's not safe to remember, Anna. Her thumb hovered. Then she typed back one word, a dare sent to a ghost. Why? Dots blinked. Stopped. Blinked again. Nothing came. By the time she reached the cottage, the world had turned the color of a storm bruise. Ben's truck was gone. The house felt larger without him, like the stage after actors leave, props still whispering their lines. She set the yearbook on the table and spread the photographs she'd found under the floorboards beside it. Herself. No. Anna with Lily under the roses, the scarf. The edge of a face just out of frame. She studied the negative space, the way the almost seen person seemed to lean toward them. If this was a true crime mystery and not her life, she'd say the photographer was the most important person in the picture. Wind shoved the window and a thin squeal threaded the room. The cottage replied with one of its own familiar creaks, a private vocabulary of age. But another sound didn't belong, an electronic trill from somewhere near the fireplace. She lowered to her knees and pressed her ear to the plank she had moved the night before. The trill again. A weak alarm, not a phone, persistent but patient. She pried further and found a compact black device taped under the beam. A tracker. The green light pulse felt like a heartbeat that wasn't hers. Her scalp prickled. Someone was tracking her in the house. She took the tracker outside and buried it in the gravel beneath the steps, palms sandy, breath short. When she came back in, she locked the door and slid the deadbolt, even though the deadbolt had never made her feel alive. On the kitchen counter lay the diary, open where she left it. An entry from October 2013. I am not supposed to write names. He said it makes them real. But real things bleed even if you don't write them. If I disappear, it wasn't an accident. Find the garden. Ring the bell. Don't trust the one who holds the keys. She touched the ink. It had the dry softness of dust and warning. Her phone rang, and the sound jumped in her bones. Unknown caller. She almost didn't answer. Emily. Hello? Silence crowded the line. And then a voice she almost knew from a room she almost remembered. Male voice. Stop digging into the past, Anna. Emily. My name is Emily. Male voice. That's what he told you, Emily. Who is this? Male voice. The only person who can still keep you alive. Emily. What happened to Lily? Male voice. You don't want that memory. Emily. I want the truth. Male voice. Truth is a door. Once it's open, it doesn't close. The line clicked dead, leaving her with her own pulse and the ocean counting something she didn't yet know how to add. Headlights swept the window. Ben's truck carving through fog. She slid the diary beneath a cushion and palmed the locker tag as if it were a coin that could pay for silence. He entered carrying a paper sack from the diner. Fried clams, the smell blunt and familiar. He watched her watch him. Ben. You look pale. Emily. I walked. Ben. Where? Emily. Around. He set plates down, the cutlery clinking like a tiny alarm. He was careful tonight, too careful, the way liars are when the room is full of glass. Ben. I left a message earlier you didn't answer, Emily. I didn't hear it. Ben. Maybe set your ringer higher. He ate as if the act could explain him. She picked at the food and let silence do the shouting. When he showered, she moved to his jacket hanging by the door. Inside pocket, a key ring heavy with more keys than a simple life needs. One long brass key had a tag etched Founder's Gate. Her mouth went dry. The shower shut off. She dropped the keys back and stepped away, forcing her breath to weave with the steady ocean hush. He crossed the hall with a towel around his waist, water slicking his shoulders. Ben. You okay? Emily. Tired. Ben. Take something. I have samples. She smiled because teeth are useful masks. Later, when he slept, she rolled the pill between her fingers and fed it to the drain. The cottage exhaled. She dressed in layers and took the long brass key. Outside, the night lowered itself to the ground and began to move. She kept to the edge of the road, the dark pressing like a hand on her back, guiding or warning, she couldn't tell. The Founder's Gate stood at the end of a cobbled lane, iron teeth flaking paint. She tried the key. It turned with the relieved sigh of a door that had been waiting to admit a particular kind of trouble. Beyond the gate, the path tunneled between hedges gone wild. The air cooled, damp with the memory of roses. Somewhere in the leaves a bell rang once, as if a gardener had lifted his head after many years. She reached the clearing and stopped. The white trellis, the broken bench, the square of earth that had forgotten how to breathe. The garden looked like a photograph that had finally learned to speak. In the far corner, a polished stone lay half-buried. Moonlight walked across its face. Not a name, not dates. Just a single chiseled word, shallow but permanent. Remember. Wind moved the hedges, and the sound became a voice she almost recognized. Emily, whisper. Who are you? The garden answered by keeping her there, the way a story keeps you until it's finished with the dark. Something shifted in the leaves, footsteps measured, confident. She straightened, the brass key cold in her fist, the word on the stone burning like a brand. Male voice, closer now. Anna, her name, one of them, arrived before the man stepped into the clearing. His face was a map she knew by feel, not sight, and yet her mind refused to lay the roads. He smiled the way people do when they've come to collect a debt. Man, we said you wouldn't come back. Emily, I never left. He took one step forward, and the hedges leaned in to listen, and the ocean far away remembered the exact second a storm begins. She didn't run. The psychological thriller she was living had taught her at least this much. Predators prefer the fleeing. Emily, what did we do that night? Man, we survived. Emily, at what price? Man, memory. He glanced at the stone, then at her hand. Man, he gave you the key. Emily, I took it. A pause that felt like a precipice. Man, then you're ready. For what? He didn't say. He just stepped aside, revealing a narrow door sunk into the hedge where shadow had been pretending to be nothing. She hadn't seen it until the moment she needed it. Man, go on. If you want real crime answers, if you want the unsolved murder mystery to stop circling, the door is how you end the loop. Emily, who are you? Man, someone who owed you a warning. She reached for the handle. The metal was colder than the night. The door opened on darkness shaped like a stare. She looked back once. The man was already leaving, absorbed by branches. Only the stone remained, asking the same command. Remember. She went down into the dark, taking the word with her, each step a heartbeat, each heartbeat a key turning in a lock she had carried inside her skull for 10 silent years. The air in the tunnel was colder than seawater, thick with the dust of things that didn't want to be remembered. Emily's phone light cut a narrow blade through the dark, trembling on wet stone. The stair ended at a small wooden door. She pushed. It moaned open like something waking up. Inside lay a room built of time. Brick walls veined with roots, a table drowned in cobwebs, and on it another diary. Newer paper, different handwriting, sharper, disciplined. The first page bore the same words she'd seen before. If you're reading this, it means they found me. But the signature was different. Dr. Benjamin Cole. Her stomach turned. The true crime mystery she'd fallen into had been written by the man she called husband. She flipped pages fast. Notes on experiments, hypnosis, memory partition therapy, patient AH. Lines circled in red pencil. Erase the trauma, keep the obedience. Emily, whisper. He did this to me. A noise answered, soft, deliberate. Footsteps in water. She killed the light and waited. Breath thickened, heart a metronome of fear. Voice, low. Anna? Not Ben. Deeper, rasped by cigarettes and years. She stayed silent. The steps passed above, the cottage floorboards. Someone else was in the house. She waited until the silence settled, then climbed back the way she came, diary under her arm. Each rung groaned like confession. When she pushed up the hatch, the living room looked untouched, except the front door hung open, fog drifting in. On the rug lay a single item, a photograph from the yearbook she'd taken earlier. Someone had scrawled across it in black ink. "You forgot her once. Don't do it again." Her hands shook so hard the paper ripped. She locked the door, double-checked windows, and sat on the couch with the new diary across her knees. Page after page blurred past her eyes, case numbers, chemical compounds, therapy notes. One file clipped to the last page, a consent form with her own signature. Anna Harper. Subject agrees to full memory suppression to protect ongoing investigation. Investigation. So once she'd known a crime big enough to bury herself for. She read the final entry dated the week before her accident. Subject has begun recalling details about the Gray case. Miller insists we end the program before exposure. Anna is resisting. If she remembers, everything collapses. Miller. Detective Miller. Emily, you were part of this. She closed the book and felt the world tip toward a psychological thriller she hadn't signed up for. Her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. She didn't answer. A voicemail dropped automatically. Static first, then breathing. Then Miller's voice. Miller, recording. "You shouldn't have gone under the house." Pause. "Come to the station tomorrow, alone. We'll finish what we started." Finish. Not discuss, not explain. Finish. She deleted nothing. Instead, she hit record and began talking quietly, as if leaving a breadcrumb for whoever would find the wreckage. Emily, recording. "If someone hears this, I'm Emily Harper, or Anna Harper, or whoever they made me. They erased me once. They won't do it again." She ended the message and hid the phone behind a loose brick in the fireplace. Outside, a car engine idled. Headlights swept across the curtains, paused, then went dark. She stayed still until the ocean filled the silence again. Sleep refused her. When it finally came, it came wrong. Dreams of a classroom, Lily's laughter echoing off lockers, a man's hand gripping a scalpel instead of a pen. She woke gasping, nails half-mooned into her palms. Rain hissed on the roof. Dawn bled pale over the sea. On the table, condensation had blurred the ink of one diary page. Words running together until they read like a command. Find the truth before it finds you. She dressed and drove. The town unfolded empty except for gulls and the neon hum of a diner. Coldwater police sat behind a line of wet oaks, brick fading to rust. She parked and walked in. The lobby smelled of paper and panic. A receptionist looked up. Receptionist, "You here to see Detective Miller?" Emily. "He called me." Receptionist. "Name?" Emily. "Emily Harper." A pause too long. Receptionist. "You're early." Emily. "He said alone." Receptionist. "He's not in today." Emily. "What?" Receptionist. "He's on administrative leave, something about evidence tampering." Her mouth went dry. Emily. "Do you know where he is?" Receptionist. "No one does. Left his badge yesterday." The building seemed to tilt. If Miller was gone, who had left the voicemail last night? She thanked the woman and stepped outside into the drizzle. Her car window had fogged from the inside. A single word drawn on the glass with a finger. Remember. She scraped it away and almost laughed because fear and disbelief share the same edge. Driving back, she kept replaying Ben's face, Miller's voice. The phrase memory suppression. The whole town was a crime scene disguised as a postcard. Every street an alibi, every wave an accomplice. At a stoplight, a child crossed the road holding a red balloon. He turned, looked directly at her, and mouthed something, 3 words. She couldn't hear them through the glass, but she could read the lips. "You killed her." The balloon slipped from his hand, vanished into fog. When the light turned green, she didn't move. Cars honked behind her until the sound became part of the storm in her head. Back at the cottage, Ben's truck was gone again. A note sat on the kitchen table. "Conference in Portland. Back tomorrow, don't go anywhere." She almost laughed again. Control disguised as care, the oldest trick in any real-life crime story. She tore the note into strips, flushed them, and opened the new diary to the last untouched page. Blank, waiting. She wrote, "He's lying. They both are. There's another body under this house, and it's not mine." The words steadied her hands. Sometimes writing feels like taking fingerprints from your own fear. The floor creaked overhead. She looked up. 2 floors in the cottage. She hadn't been to the attic. Ben always said it was storage. Locked. Unsafe. She found the brass keyring in the drawer, tried each one until a silver key clicked. Dust greeted her like an old friend. Cardboard boxes, a trunk, a single bulb swinging from its wire. She pulled the chain. The light blinked alive, flickering between worlds. Inside the trunk, photographs again, hundreds, Polaroids, her asleep. Her standing at the sink. Her walking the cliffs. Each labeled in neat handwriting. Day 12, day 47, day 210. A sound escaped her throat, half gasp, half broken laugh. She scattered them across the floor, a blizzard of stolen moments. One photo landed face down. She flipped it. It wasn't her. It was Lily Gray, eyes closed, a dark stain on her throat, time-stamped 2013. On the back, 2 words in red marker. Trial complete. The bulb flickered, died. The attic went black except for lightning splitting the window. She stood among the photographs until her knees found the floor and the storm did the crying for her. Somewhere below, the front door opened. Ben's voice floated up, steady, affectionate, wrong. "Ben, Em, you awake?" She gathered the photos, stuffed them inside her jacket. Her heartbeat wrote its own countdown. If he found her now, the next entry in his diary would be her obituary. Rain still beat against the attic window, the rhythm almost kind. Below, Ben's footsteps moved through the cottage like a metronome for danger. Emily's breath thinned. She gathered the photos in shaking hands, shoving them into her jacket pocket. Each one whispered when it bent, a sound small but criminal. The stairs groaned as she moved down, one hand tight around the railing. Her mind was a carousel of psychological horror, every turn revealing a new face she couldn't trust, including her own. "Ben, you shouldn't be up there." His voice floated from the living room, calm, measured, wrong. She stopped halfway, pulse hammering in her throat. "Emily, why not?" "Ben, dust, nails, dangerous." "Emily, you mean evidence." He appeared at the bottom of the stairs, hair damp from rain, eyes shining too steady. Lightning showed the outline of something metallic behind his back. "Ben, you've been through enough." "Emily, enough lies?" "Ben, enough therapy." She stepped closer, tasting the electricity between them. "Emily, you called it therapy, I call it erasure." He sighed the way people do when the truth ruins the script. "Ben, I saved you from yourself." "Emily, and from Lily?" That cracked his mask. A tiny muscle jumped near his eye. "Ben, you shouldn't know that name." "Emily, but you made sure I did, didn't you? You left her picture upstairs." "Ben, you went where you weren't supposed to." "Emily, you killed her." "Ben, no, you did." The words fell like a knife on tile. She felt them lodge somewhere deep. Emily. Tell me what happened. Ben. You loved her like a sister. You couldn't accept what she was becoming. She wanted to expose us. Emily. Us. Ben. You volunteered for the trials, Anna. We were building a cure. Memory suppression therapy. Lily found out it wasn't legal. He took another step. Metal flashed. A syringe, not a weapon, though poison sometimes wears medical white. Ben. You don't remember the fight. She fell. You screamed. You begged me to make it go away. Emily. So you wiped me clean. Ben. It was mercy. Rain pressed harder on the windows. Thunder rolled like something large waking up in the deep. Emily. Then who's buried under this house? His hand froze. Ben. You weren't supposed to find her. She bolted for the kitchen, knocking a chair aside. He caught her wrist, the syringe gleaming between them. They struggled, breaths colliding. A plate shattered. The needle sank into his own arm. For a heartbeat, neither moved. Then his pupils widened like the tide swallowing a shore. He staggered back, the syringe dangling. Ben, you... He hit the table, went down hard, eyes open, chest still. Silence. No music this time, no dramatic thunderclap, just the ocean exhaling relief and warning together. She sank to her knees beside him, half expecting him to get up. He didn't. She checked his pulse. It beat once, maybe twice, then was gone. The man who had rewritten her life ended himself by accident or symmetry. The real-life crime mystery wasn't over because even now guilt didn't know who to blame. She looked around the room, diaries, photographs, the tracker she had buried pulsing under gravel. And somewhere beyond it all, Detective Miller. The name slid through her head like a match waiting to strike. She dialed his number, voicemail. She didn't leave one. Instead, she whispered to the empty air, Emily. He's dead. I'm not. She wrapped the syringe in a towel, dumped it into the fireplace, watched the flame eat its memory. Then she dragged Ben's body toward the cellar door, gravity helping, guilt directing. The steps groaned like witnesses. The cellar smelled of iron. The tunnel entrance yawned open beneath the boards she'd pried before. She pushed him down into the dark. No prayers, just breath. When he was gone from sight, she closed the hatch and leaned against it, every muscle trembling. Upstairs, the clock struck 3 a.m. Outside, the fog carried the echo of waves that sounded too much like applause. For the first time in years. Her head was clear, but freedom came with a price tag written in blood. She cleaned her hands, stuffed the diaries and photos into a duffel, and sat at the kitchen table waiting for morning. The stillness was a kind of scream. When dawn finally cracked, the cottage looked innocent again. She locked the door behind her and drove away. Coldwater's streets were slick, reflections of a town pretending it didn't know her. She stopped at a payphone outside the diner. Coins clattered like confessions. The number she dialed had been memorized in fear. Voice, female, tired. Coldwater Police, Emily. Detective Miller, please. Voice. He's unavailable, Emily. Tell him Anna Harper's coming in. A pause. Voice. Who, Emily? He'll know. She hung up before the voice could change shape. The drive to the station felt endless, the ocean pacing her left shoulder. She parked at the edge of the lot. The building loomed red brick and regret. Her reflection in the glass door looked like someone worth arresting. Inside, lights buzzed weakly. No one at reception. Desks half empty. A bulletin board with missing person notices. Lily Gray still smiling from a decade ago, paper browned by time. Below it, a fresh photo pinned last night. Ben Cole. Status, deceased. The note under it read, Investigation reopened. Detective Miller assigned. He was alive and back on the case. Something cold threaded her spine. He'd planned this, all of it. Maybe even Ben's overdose. She moved down the hallway, lights flickering. A door at the end glowed faintly, Detective Miller. She pushed it open, empty desk, a cup of coffee steaming, still hot. On the blotter, a single sheet of paper, her name at the top. Below it, 3 words written in pen the color of dried blood. Welcome back, Anna. The coffee was still warm, but the office smelled of gun oil and rain. Somewhere close, a floorboard creaked. Emily. Miller? Silence. Then the faint click of a door locking behind her. The game wasn't finished. The unsolved murder had only changed its players. Her reflection in the window looked calm, but her hand on the diary trembled like truth. For the first time, she understood. Memory was never erased, only waiting for permission to scream. And tonight, it would. The lock clicked like punctuation at the end of a sentence she hadn't written. Emily turned slowly, the room shrinking around her heartbeat. Emily. Miller? The blinds shifted. A shadow moved behind them, tall, deliberate. He stepped into the weak strip of light. Detective Miller looked older than the man in her memories, or maybe the memories were still lying. Rain clung to his coat, dripping a steady rhythm onto the floor. Miller. You shouldn't be here. Emily. You left me no choice. Miller. You killed Ben. Emily. He killed himself trying to do it to me first. He studied her the way predators study distance. Miller. Convenient story. Emily. Try a new script, I've read the old one. She dropped Ben's diary on the desk. The thud echoed off the walls like a gunshot without smoke. Emily. Your name's all over it. Miller. He liked to dramatize. Emily. He called you his partner. That word made him flinch. Partnership. So clean, so official, and so dirty when written in blood. Miller. We had a purpose. You volunteered. Emily. I didn't volunteer for amnesia. Miller. No, you begged for it. He walked behind the desk, eyes scanning the open diary. Miller. You were drowning in guilt. Lily was dead. You wanted to forget. Ben said he could help. I approved it. Emily. You covered a murder. Miller. I covered a mistake. There's a difference. Emily. Tell that to her grave. Thunder rolled outside. The station's lights flickered, humming like bees in a jar. He closed the diary and set it aside with the tenderness of a priest shelving scripture. Miller. The experiment worked. For a while. Then Ben got greedy. He thought he could sell it. Rewrite any witness, erase any confession. Emily. And you? Miller. I wanted control, not money. Control. He looked at her the way one looks at fire, admiration edged with fear. Miller. You were proof it could be done, a mind turned blank and obedient. But something went wrong. You started remembering. Emily. Because truth doesn't stay buried. Miller. Truth is just another drug. People overdose on it every day. He reached into his coat. She tensed, expecting steel. Instead, he produced a tape recorder, the same model she'd hidden messages on. Miller. I listened to your little confession. Touching. Emily. Then you know I'm not your puppet anymore. Miller. You're still on my stage. He pressed play. Her own voice filled the office, broken, trembling. If someone hears this, I'm Emily Harper. Or Anna Harper. They erased me once. He stopped the tape. Miller. You see? Even you don't know who you are. That makes you dangerous. Emily. No, that makes me free. She reached into her jacket and pulled out one photograph. Lily, alive, smiling under the roses. She slid it across the desk. Emily. She trusted you. She told you about the trials and you silenced her. He didn't deny it. The silence was heavier than confession. Miller. She was going to expose us. You helped me stop her. Emily. That's not true. Miller. You held her while she bled, Anna. You begged me to make it disappear. Her mind cracked open. Flash. White roses red on her hands, Lily's breath hitching, Miller shouting. A gun, a fall, water swallowing a scream. She gripped the edge of the desk, nausea and clarity fighting for space. Emily. You shot her. Miller. And you let me. The truth tasted metallic. She stepped back, shaking her head. Emily. No. You drugged me. You erased it so you could keep your badge. Miller. We both benefited until you decided to remember. He circled the desk, closing the distance. Her hand brushed against a paperweight, heavy glass shaped like the town seal. Miller. Give me the diaries, Anna. Walk out of here and forget again. I can still fix it. Emily. You can't fix what's awake. He reached for her wrist. She swung. The glass shattered against his temple, light exploding, both of them gasping. He fell to one knee, blood tracing his cheek. Miller. You think this ends with me? Emily. It ends with truth. She grabbed the diary and ran. The hallway yawned open, fluorescent lights stuttering above her. Her shoes slapped water as alarms began to cry. A fire alarm, maybe. Or the building itself trying to warn her. Behind her, Miller's voice chased the air. Miller. You'll never outrun what you did. Outside, rain swallowed the siren's pitch. She reached her car, fumbling the keys, lungs burning. Headlights flared behind her. Too bright, too close. A police cruiser. Miller's voice through the loudspeaker. Stop, Anna, don't make this harder. She floored the gas. The tires screamed, the road answered with slick betrayal. The ocean blurred beside her, cliffs flashing like old memories. She drove until the bridge appeared, the same one from her dreams. Halfway across, the car stalled. Dead engine, dead air. She stepped out, rain slicing her skin. Behind her, Miller's car rolled to a stop. He emerged, gun raised, blood still seeping down his temple. Miller. You can't kill the past, Emily. No. But I can stop carrying it. She threw the diary into the river below. It vanished in a splash that sounded like applause and forgiveness. He hesitated, weapon lowering. Maybe he realized the evidence was gone, or maybe he remembered what guilt feels like. She turned and walked into the fog. No siren followed, no bullet came, just the hum of the bridge and the sea repeating her heartbeat. Somewhere beneath the water, the diary sank, pages blooming open like flowers finally free to rot. Memory dissolving but not erased, never erased. And somewhere far behind, Miller whispered to the rain, Miller, you were my best experiment. She didn't hear it, or maybe she did and chose silence as her answer. By the time morning touched cold water, Anna Harper was gone. Emily Harper walked into the next chapter of her true crime mystery, a woman rebuilt from fragments, haunted but alive. The fog closed behind her, sealing the town back into its secret rhythm, and for the first time she didn't need to remember to survive. And the road away from Coldwater curved like a question that refused its mark. Dawn thinned the fog, turning the ocean to dull glass. Emily drove until the gas needle touched red, until the town shrank in the mirror to a rumor. When she finally stopped, the sign read Marrow's End, Pop 312. The kind of place where news arrived slower than guilt. She rented a room above a diner, paid cash, kept her new name, Emily, to strangers who didn't care enough to look twice. At night, she lay awake with the hum of refrigerators below her, scrolling headlines on her phone. No mention of Ben Cole's death, no missing officer. Just silence, a cover thick enough to walk on. But Coldwater still pulsed beneath her skin. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw lockers, white roses, and Lily's laughter turning into a scream. The shadows of the school refused to stay buried. By the third morning, she stopped pretending to rest. She opened Ben's spare flash drive, the one she had taken from his desk before leaving. Encrypted files. She typed Anna Harper out of habit. It opened. Inside, scanned documents. Coldwater Boarding School Research Initiative, funded by Cole Institute of Neuropsychiatry, supervised by Detective Miller, liaison. Project name, The Garden Protocol. Her stomach turned. Pages described teenage volunteers. Memory conditioning, behavioral correction, reassignment therapy, victims labeled Subject A through Subject K. Lily Gray was Subject G, Anna Harper, her was Subject H. Emily, whisper. They started it at the school. The truth uncoiled slowly. Ben and Miller had tested their experiment on students long before her accident. The garden wasn't a metaphor. It was a lab hidden beneath the school grounds. She printed one photo from the file, an old blueprint showing tunnels beneath the West Wing. If she wanted the whole story, she'd have to go back. By dusk, she was on the road again, wind cutting through the cracked window, salt and storm mixing on her tongue. The school stood where she'd left it, an empty spine of red brick against the sea. Only gulls nested now, guardians of secrets. She climbed the fence, flashlight trembling in her grip. Inside, the corridors had grown colder, the silence thicker. Her shoes left damp ghosts on the floor. Down the hall, the same bulletin board waited with its fading message. I know what you did that night. Someone had drawn a new line beneath it. Fresh ink. She whispered to the dark, Emily, who are you? A voice drifted from the end of the hall, soft, almost kind. Voice, someone who remembers. She spun the light. A woman stood there, maybe 30, coat frayed, eyes alive with sleepless fire. Emily, you worked here? Woman, I studied here. Back then they called it therapy. Emily, you're one of them. Woman, Subject E. I escaped before graduation. The stranger smiled without humor. Woman, they used to bring us down to the garden at night. Said it was to plant better versions of ourselves. Emily, what happened to Lily Gray? Woman, she found the door that wasn't supposed to open. Lightning burned the window white. For an instant, Emily saw the fear in the woman's face turn to pity. Woman, if you're here, he'll come. Emily, Miller? Woman, he doesn't stop tending his garden. The woman slipped something into Emily's palm, a small key etched with a rose. Woman, it fits the gate behind the gym. That's where the tunnel starts. Then she was gone, footsteps swallowed by the building's throat. The gym smelled of mildew and ghosts. Benches collapsed, basketballs half deflated like lungs. Behind the bleachers, a rusted gate waited. The rose key turned with a sigh. A stairway spiraled down, lined with flickering emergency lights that hadn't seen maintenance since memory was legal. At the bottom, a corridor, white tiles gone brown, doors labeled Experiment Room 1, 2, 3. Inside Room 3, the air hummed faintly, a generator still alive somewhere. On the wall, a screen blinked to life as she stepped near, motion sensor awakening. A video looped, grainy, timestamp 2013. Lily Gray sitting on a chair, electrodes on her temples. Ben behind her, Miller off camera. Lily's voice trembled. I don't want to forget. Ben's reply, then remember for both of us. A flash, a scream, static. The screen went black. Emily pressed her palms to the desk, nausea and fury braided tight. Another monitor flickered, her own face younger, eyes wide, confused. A voice. Subject H shows resistance, increased dosage. She slammed the switch off. The darkness felt cleaner than the truth. On a clipboard nearby, an unfinished report. Garden protocol suspended, assets relocated, witness terminated. Under witness, Lily Gray's name. Under relocated, her own. So the accident wasn't random, it was an extraction. They had erased her to hide the program. Ben revived it privately. Miller kept the files. Now the experiment wanted to wake again. She gathered the documents, stuffed them into her bag. The corridor lights dimmed, power flickering. Footsteps echoed behind her, slow, deliberate. She turned the flashlight toward the sound. Miller, gun drawn, raincoat slick with fresh rain. He looked like the storm had built him. Miller, you never learn. Emily, you never stop. Miller, you could have left it buried. Emily, buried things grow roots. He raised the gun. Miller, put the bag down. Emily, you'll kill me anyway. Miller, no, I'll cure you again. She stepped backward into the lab's emergency shower stall, hit the lever. Water exploded down, spraying metal, light, chaos. He fired. The bullet sparked off pipe. She ducked, grabbed a tray, hurled it, clang, distraction. She ran. The corridor tilted into madness. Alarms, flickering red light, water spreading underfoot. She reached the stair and climbed, lungs clawing for air. Behind her, Miller shouted her name, half fury, half worship. At the top, she slammed the gate, jammed the rose key into the latch. The lock clicked, final. His fists pounded once, twice, then silence. Only his voice drifting through metal. Miller, you'll come back, they always do. She stepped into the night. Rain washed the blood and rust from her hands, leaving only salt. The school loomed behind her, black windows watching. She walked until the sea came back into view, gray and endless. Somewhere below the cliffs, waves tore at rock as if trying to uncover whatever the town had hidden. She dropped the rose key into the water. It vanished without ceremony. For a moment, she let herself believe it was over. But from the distance came a sound that didn't belong to waves, an alarm still echoing from underground, muffled but alive. The garden hadn't died. It was remembering her too. She turned toward the sound, whispering to no one, Emily. If truth is a seed, I guess I've already planted it. And the night, faithful and cruel, whispered back. Voice, faint, from sea or mind. Then prepare for the harvest. By morning, the rain had rinsed the town to a pale bruise. Emily parked 2 streets from the school and watched workers unload fencing from a truck. Yellow tape snapped in the wind. Coldwater was waking up to the smell of scandal. Her phone vibrated, an alert she hadn't subscribed to. Breaking. Anonymous files allege illegal garden protocol at Coldwater boarding school. Teen subjects, memory manipulation, police collusion. Below it, an audio clip. A woman's voice, steady, practiced. This is the Marrow's End True Crime Podcast. Today, the Coldwater experiments. Emily's pulse thudded. She hadn't leaked anything. Then who did? The diner on the corner overflowed with curiosity. Televisions hissed. Locals bent over coffees like fortune tellers reading steam. She slid into a booth in the back where shadows could keep her company. The podcast host kept talking, measured, empathetic, lethal. Multiple victims labeled Subject A through K, a liaison in the police department, a psychiatrist named Benjamin Cole, and one missing witness, Lily Gray, a beat. We have reason to believe a second witness, Subject H, is alive. Emily turned the volume down until the words were a hum she could hide behind. A waitress set coffee down without asking. Waitress, whole town's on fire, honey. Emily, does it ever burn clean? Waitress, not here. On the counter, a stack of old weeklies showed a headline from 10 years ago. Local teen disappears. Vigil planned. Lily's smiling face had aged into an icon. Across the room, the door chimed. The woman from the school, Subject E, stepped in, coat still frayed, eyes still lit with unslept nights. She scanned the tables and came straight to Emily as if pulled by a magnet she'd swallowed years ago. Woman. You heard it. Emily. Who leaked? Woman. I did. With a reporter. It was time. Emily looked past her to the rain-slick street where unmarked sedans began to multiply like thoughts you don't want. Emily. They'll come for us. Woman. They already did. We just stopped pretending we didn't notice. The waitress slid another mug across. The woman cupped it like heat could teach her hands to settle. Woman. They called me Eliza back then. I kept the name because they tried to take it. Emily. Eliza. Eliza. You were the brave one. Subject H never cried. Emily. I cry now. Eliza. That's bravery too. Emily pushed her phone across the table, open to the blueprint she'd copied. Tunnels, labs, a narrow shaft labeled archive. Emily. There's an archive we didn't reach. Eliza. Sealed. Emily. For now. Eliza leaned in, voice a thread. Eliza. The podcast forces their hand. They'll erase what's left. We have hours, maybe less. Emily swallowed coffee in a decision. They left cash on the table and stepped back into a world already changing its story. Sirens braided the air. A news van crawled past, sniffing. At the school fence, uniformed officers hammered signs into wet ground. Crime scene. Do not enter. They entered anyway. Around back, through the same bad mend in the chain link, ghosts passing through a wound that never healed. Inside, the hall smelled of fresh fear. Somewhere beneath, a generator stuttered. The archive door hid behind a row of lockers. Up close, Emily saw the seam, metal painted brick red. Eliza pressed her ear to it. Eliza. Fans. It's still ventilated. Emily. Which means reachable. They searched until Eliza found a recessed handle and pulled. The door groaned inward, breath of dust and cold filing out to meet them. A narrow stair fell into a square of light like a confession. The room below looked like a church built for paper. Metal shelves in rows, boxes labeled with hands that believed time was theirs to order. A dehumidifier hummed as if guarding its flock. Emily opened a box at random. Consent forms. Garden protocol. Signatures the color of trust. Parents mostly. Some no older than 19. Written with a flourish that had expected scholarships, not scars. Another box held tapes. Mini cassettes, each stamped with the subject code and date. She found one, H19 exit interview, unfiled. Her throat closed around air. Eliza scanned barcodes into her phone, courage disguised as organization. Eliza. Take 10. The podcast will publish in parts. We'll drop a second wave when they deny the first. Emily slid H19 into a recorder she'd yanked from the next shelf. Static, then her own voice, younger and raw. You said I wouldn't feel anything. Ben's voice clinical. You asked not to. A third voice whispered. Miller, a shadow in sound. If she remembers the witness, we're finished. Keep the dosage. Emily's recorded breath hitched. Don't let me be the one who forgets her. Ben. Then forget yourself. The tape clicked off. In the white space after, Emily heard 10 years collapse into now. Eliza. We have enough to bury them. Emily. They don't bury, they plant. This is a field. Eliza. Then we salt the ground. Footsteps above, more than one pair. Men who had learned to walk like silence. They killed the light and flattened between shelves, the room shrinking to breath and pulse. Voices bled down the stair. Man 1. Grab everything marked liaison. Man 2. Orders say burn. Man 1. After we copy. Emily closed her hand around a tape labeled G Final. Lilies. The weight of it redefined gravity. Eliza's hand found hers. two fugitives sharing one metronome of fear. In the dark, they counted the footfalls, the greedy rustle of boxes lifted, the careless thud of a file dropped and hurriedly repacked. When the men moved deeper into the aisle maze, Emily nodded to the far corner where a vent cover hung loose. They slid toward it, inch by deliberate inch, shoes whispering apologies to the floor. Eliza pried the cover, held it like a shield while Emily crawled into the narrow duct. Metal bit her palms. Dust found her throat. Eliza followed, silent as regret. They moved until the voices thinned into a hum and the duct opened over a utility closet. Emily dropped first, spinning on her shoes, catching Eliza's elbow as she fell. They shut themselves into the dark and tried to breathe like people who still believed in tomorrow. A siren wailed outside, closer now. Police, fire, or both. The building lurched with foot traffic. Somewhere above, a radio crackled a name they both understood at once. Radio. Tinny. Miller en route. Eliza's mouth shaped a curse she didn't spend. Emily gripped the tape of Lily's last session until the edges cut skin. Eliza, if he gets here before the press, he'll erase everything again. Emily, not if the truth outruns him. They slipped back into the hall and ghosted toward a side exit, hugging lockers like they knew how to keep secrets too. At the door, Emily paused, eyes on the bulletin board. Someone had added a new message to the old threat, Sharpie still wet. I know what you did that night, and who you did it for. She photographed it, a ritual now, proof that words could keep breathing. Outside, the yard swarmed, uniforms, suits, cameras, umbrellas tilted like black flowers. The podcast had become a parade. A young reporter broke from the herd and jogged toward them, mic lowered, eyes human. Reporter, are you Emily Harper? Emily, today. Reporter, I'm Mara Hayes. We run the podcast. Your friend Eliza trusted me. Eliza nodded once. Mara, we can protect sources, but we'll need more than allegations. Emily, I brought a garden. She handed over a stack, scan prints, 3 tapes. A hard drive slipped from the archive's back shelf because luck sometimes gets tired of watching. Mara's throat bobbed when she saw the labels. Her voice got smaller, which made it truer. Mara, we'll air it live. They can't shut it all down if the whole country's listening. Police formed a line at the front gate as an unmarked car slid to the curb. Detective Miller stepped out, stitched back together, hat low, face a sermon about control. Cameras swiveled, microphones rose like spears. Mara, whisper. You should go. Emily, running is how they win. Eliza, so is dying. Emily watched Miller watch the crowd. He was smiling, small and confident, a man who'd vacuumed blood off his conscience too many times to notice the stain. Then he saw Emily. The smile stayed, but the eyes altered, as if he'd sighted an animal that had learned to open doors. He came toward them steady, the press parting like paper in rain. Miller. Ms. Harper. Emily. Detective. Miller, you've caused quite a mess. Emily. Truth does that. Mara lifted her mic now, live light blinking. No more backroom deals. Mara. Detective Baum. Off record to on. Were you the liaison to the garden protocol? Miller. No comment. Mara. Did you alter evidence in the case of Lily Gray? Miller. No comment. Mara. Did you sanction memory suppression on minors? Miller. Absolutely not. Emily stepped into the frame, calm as a loaded silence. Emily. Then explain this. She held up Lily's tape, G final, so the cameras could learn what shame looked like as an object. Miller's gaze flicked to the label, then to Mara's blinking light, then to the crowd as if seeking somewhere to stash a lie. Miller. Manufactured. Emily. It's your voice. Miller. Deepfakes exist. Mara. So do archives and chain of custody. We have both. The crowd shifted. A murmur started. Soft, dangerous. Miller tried a different script. Miller. Emily Harper is an unstable witness. Eliza. Subject H is awake. Miller. Subject. He caught himself. Ms. Harper has a history of trauma. Emily. Which you created. Sirens multiplied. A state cruiser nosed to the curb. 2 attorneys in gray stepped out with folders thick enough to bruise. The line of uniforms wavered. Uncertainty a new weather. Mara met Emily's eyes. A question passed between them, then an answer. Mara to camera. We're airing the tapes at noon. Nationwide feed. If anyone attempts to confiscate this equipment, that will be our story too. Miller's jaw worked. He could arrest one person, he couldn't arrest a broadcast. He turned back to Emily, voice thin with a kind of pleading he'd mistaken all his life for power. Miller. Don't do this. Emily. I already did. A gust tugged the clouds apart. For a heartbeat, sun hit the school's broken windows and threw a scatter of light across the lot like confetti at the wrong celebration. In that light, a girl stood near the fence, hood up, hands in pockets, watching. Emily's breath stalled, the stance, the tilt of mouth. Lily, if Lily had learned 10 years of weather. But when Emily blinked, the girl was gone, leaving only a gap in the crowd and a rumor inside Emily's chest. Eliza, low. You saw her too? Emily, or wanted to. Mara's phone chimed. She checked the screen and swallowed hard. Mara, anonymous tip. Autopsy records for Lily Gray were falsified. No body ever released to the family. The ground seemed to float. The unsolved murder wasn't solved. It had just split into 2 possibilities. Lily dead in a way paper couldn't prove, or alive in a way memory had protected. Emily looked at Miller. For the first time, he looked unsure of which version to deny. Emily, where is she? Miller, if I knew, you wouldn't. It wasn't an answer. It was a promise. Cameras caught every breath now. The town listened. The coast held its salt, and somewhere under the gym a generator kept memory warm. Emily turned from Miller to the microphone, to the country, to the part of herself that had never stopped keeping records. Emily. My name is Emily Harper. I was Subject H. I remember enough to know this. Every secret you plant grows. We're done watering yours. No applause, just a quiet intake. Thousands of strangers breathing at once. At noon, the tapes would play. By dusk, the garden would try to burn itself to the roots, and by night, if the rumor in the light was true, Lily Gray might walk out of the shadows of the school and change the ending everyone thought they'd already heard. The day after the broadcast, cold water smelled like wires after lightning, burnt, metallic, expectant. Every window flickered with a television glow. Every mouth carried a headline. The garden protocol had turned from rumor to proof, and proof had 1,000 hungry eyes. Emily sat in a motel room 2 towns north, curtains drawn, TV muted. Her reflection in the screen looked like surveillance footage, blurred edges, breath fogging the glass. She hadn't slept. When she tried, her mind replayed Lily's tape, Miller's voice, and the girl at the fence who looked exactly like a ghost learning to breathe. A knock, not timid, measured. Voice. Room service. She hadn't ordered any. Her hand found the motel's heavy ceramic ashtray before she opened the door a crack. Eliza slipped inside, closing it quick. No tray, no uniform. Eliza. You're trending, Emily. Congratulations? Eliza. Half the country believes you, the other half thinks you're a hoax. Emily. That's balance. Eliza dropped a folded newspaper on the bed. Front page headline, Cold Water Whistleblower Fears Retaliation. Below a photo, Emily crossing the lot, mouth set, eyes mid-blink. The caption read, Unconfirmed source claims second victim still alive. Eliza. They're saying Lily was spotted in Boston. Emily. Or someone who looks like her. Eliza. or someone wants you to chase it. Emily stared at the blurry zoomed-in image, a girl under a streetlight, head turned away, red scarf vivid as accusation. Her stomach recognized it before her brain did. Lily's scarf. Emily. We follow it. Eliza. It's bait. Emily. Maybe. But bait means there's something alive enough to catch. They left before dawn. The highway unspooled wet and endless, the kind of road that forgets names but remembers wheels. Boston rose from fog like a city built out of guilt and ambition. Downtown, the world moved too fast for ghosts to keep up. The address printed on the article led to an abandoned clinic near the river. Sign peeled, windows boarded, still humming faintly with forgotten electricity. Inside, graffiti crawled across the walls. Hearts, curses, dates like gravestones. On the counter sat a single envelope sealed with wax. The symbol pressed into it, a rose. Eliza. Your garden leaves mail now, Emily. Maybe it blooms everywhere. She broke the seal. Inside, a USB drive and a note in looping cursive. Stop remembering for me. They exchanged a look that felt like déjà vu trying to warn itself. Eliza plugged the drive into her tablet. A video opened. Security footage from somewhere underground. Timestamp 2 days old. Lily Gray sat in a chair, alive, older. Across from her, a man whose face never found focus. Blurred, pixelated, maybe masked. The audio was low but clear. Man. They're burning the school tonight. Lily. Then it's over. Man. Nothing ends. We move it. Same protocol, new town. Lily. You promised. Man. You were the promise. Static swallowed the rest. Eliza froze the frame. Eliza. Look at her arm. A tattoo visible just above the wrist. A small black rose. Same mark etched on the key they'd used for the tunnel. Emily. She's alive. Eliza. Or digitized. Could be staged. Emily. No. The lighting, the breathing. That's her. She pressed pause and stared at the rose until the symbol turned back into memory. Ben's sketchbooks. Margins filled with that flower, the motto beneath it. To rewrite is to redeem. Emily. He started something Miller couldn't finish. Eliza. And now someone else is finishing it. They packed up fast. Outside, sirens threaded the air. News alerts buzzed their phones. Coldwater school destroyed in fire. Authorities suspect arson. The garden had been torched, but the roots had already moved. They took a back alley toward the car. A van idled at the end of the block, black, unmarked, windows opaque. Doors opened before they reached it. 2 men stepped out in identical coats, calm as surgeons. Man 1. Ms. Harper, we need you to come with us. Emily. I'm done with invitations. Man 2. This isn't optional. Eliza stepped forward, voice steady. Eliza. Press knows where we are. Man 1. We know what the press knows, that's why we're here. One reached into his coat. Emily's mind counted exits, distances, the nearest noise. A city bus howled down the cross street and she moved, grabbed Eliza's wrist, ducked behind the vehicle as it passed, and ran. The alley spilled them into a market square alive with vendors shouting over radios. They vanished among fruit stalls and neon umbrellas, breath sinking with chaos. Behind them, footsteps, calm and relentless. Eliza hissed between breaths. Eliza, we can't keep running forever. Emily, no. But we can make them chase ghosts. They split at the corner. Emily slid into the crowd, hood up, phone pressed to her chest like a heartbeat. She ducked into a subway entrance just as the men turned the corner. The train's roar became shelter. She boarded the first car, sat between strangers who smelled of rain and routine. In the window reflection, her own face looked borrowed again. She wondered how many versions of Emily Harper the world could hold before one of them finally stuck. The train plunged underground. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "You can't protect her twice," she typed back before fear could edit. "Where is Lily?" The reply came instantly. "Look closer." The window opposite her flickered, screens built into the carriage advertising streaming news. The headline scrolling now. Police release image of new suspect in Coldwater arson, Emily Harper. Her own photo filled the screen. The commuters shifted, glancing up, then at her. One whispered. Another lifted a phone. Recognition spread like contagion. Emily stood, forcing calm. Emily, low. Always rewrite the witness. She slipped through the connecting doors, the train slowed, jumped down to the service walkway, sprinted along the tunnel. Behind her, someone shouted for security. Ahead, emergency lights pulsed red, marking exits like escape clauses. She climbed a ladder to a maintenance hatch and emerged into daylight, an abandoned pier smelling of diesel and ghosts. Waves slapped pylons like applause gone wrong. Eliza was already there, soaked, waiting. Eliza, I saw the news. Emily, congratulations. I'm officially the villain. Eliza, means you're close to the truth. They stood facing the sea, the city skyline jagged behind them. Emily felt the world rearrange again. Identities, stories, crimes, everything a palimpsest written over too many times. Emily, if they've made me the monster, I might as well act like one. Eliza, what do you mean? Emily, we stop chasing, we hunt. Eliza's smile was the first honest thing in hours. Eliza, where do we start? Emily, where the next garden grows. She pulled the USB from her pocket, the one marked with the rose. On its edge, a faint engraving she hadn't noticed before. G2, Garden 2. They exchanged a look, fear and resolve intertwined. The pier lights flickered as if the city itself blinked. Somewhere behind them, the tide whispered a new promise. And far out to sea, a cargo ship signaled once, long and low, like memory calling home. They traced the engraving with a thumb until it felt like a map. G2, a sequel pretending to be a secret. Eliza's contact in Boston answered on the first ring, voice swallowed by traffic. Eliza, we scraped the USB, anything on its header? Contact. Vendor string points to a non-profit shell, Graybridge Wellness. Emily, wellness is always a nice word for control. Contact. Headquarters listed in Providence, grant partner in Baltimore, one more ping. A research site on a leased island off the Massachusetts coast. No public ferry. Eliza, send everything. Contact. Done. And be careful. The filings mention a liaison with prior law enforcement experience. Emily, of course they do. They borrowed a car that didn't belong to anyone who would miss it and drove south along a spine of wet highway. The storm kept pace, a patient witness. Providence gave up a building with mirrored glass and a lobby that smelled like money pretending to be mercy. Graybridge Wellness, letters in brushed steel. A receptionist, the bland smile of a professional gait. Receptionist, do you have an appointment? Emily, we're donors. Receptionist, name? Eliza, Harper, and Eliza. Receptionist, full name? Eliza. Just Eliza. The smile thinned. A man in a charcoal suit appeared from a side door, the kind that has a safe instead of a closet. Suit, Ms. Harper. We'd be happy to reschedule when the press cools down. Emily, we'd be happy if it didn't. Suit, this is a wellness center. Emily, so was the last garden. His eyes flickered, a weather change behind glass. Suit, you'll need to leave. Eliza, we'll need a tour. Security arrived with the softness of professionals who rarely have to raise their voices. They guided Emily and Eliza back to the wet sidewalk without touching them, which is its own kind of touch. Eliza, front door won't open. Emily, So we take the back. They circled the alley. Loading dock, compactors, a camera angled too high. Eliza knelt by a keypad, thumb sweeping the greasy plastic. Eliza, look for the numbers everybody likes to press. Emily, 0258. Eliza, Grease tells the story. Try 2013. Emily, 2013. Eliza, year everything began. She typed. The lock clunked with the tired relief of a wound reopening. Inside, corridors painted calming colors, framed posters promising mindfulness, resilience, renewal. The words tasted like antiseptic. They passed therapy rooms where chairs faced windows and windows faced nothing. At the end of the hall, a door with a placard, clinical research. Badge reader, quiet red. Eliza, we could pry it. Emily, or we could ask nicely. She raised her phone and dialed the number printed on the Volunteer Here brochure they'd lifted from the lobby. Emily, bright, false. Hi, I'm calling about the Graybridge Cognitive Program. I'm at the Providence site and the door's locked. Voice, tinny, helpful. Oh, if you're an approved volunteer, your badge should... Emily, it didn't arrive. They told me to meet Dr. M. Voice, Dr. M, one moment. Eliza, murmur. You just said the magic letter. Voice, returning. Dr. Marin can buzz you in. Please wait. The light blinked green. They slid through before gratitude could be verified. The research wing hummed a familiar song. Machines breathing, vents whispering, computers thinking in squares. On a central table lay a stack of patient files, names redacted, dates fresh. Emily. They rebuilt it with better stationery. Eliza. Look, a corkboard mapped sites of service. Providence, Baltimore, Detroit, and a dot floating off the coast. Graybridge Retreat, G2 Island. A photo pinned beneath showed a low building, wind-bent grasses, solar panels bright as teeth. Eliza. That's where they moved the heavy work. Emily. That's where they moved her. Footsteps approached, the clipped cadence of someone who trusts locks. A woman entered in a lab coat, hair twisted up like a promise she'd already kept. Dr. Marin, you're not supposed to be here. Emily, we hear that a lot. Dr. Marin, security is on the way. Eliza, good, they can listen too. Emily set a tape on the counter, Lily's G final copy, and pressed play. The room filled with ghosts. Marin's posture faltered, a fine crack in porcelain. Dr. Marin, that was... before. We're different, Emily. Different like new paint on old rot. Dr. Marin, we treat trauma. Eliza, you harvest it. Marin's gaze flicked to the island photo and back as if distance could lie. Dr. Marin, leave, please. Emily, is Lily there? Dr. Marin, who? Emily, you know. Marin swallowed the rest of her sentence. Silence filled in the shape. Security's radio crackled nearer. Eliza, we're walking out with or without you if you want out too, blink. Dr. Marin, the ferries run at dusk. Emily, from where? Dr. Marin, situate, private pier, no signage. A shadow crossed the lab window. Marin moved to the door, palmed the release. Dr. Marin, low. Don't take your phones, they ping badge zones, use cash. Emily, why help us? Dr. Marin, because I wrote a protocol I can't sleep beside. They were in the alley before the alarm decided to be brave. The road north broke into 2 lanes and 100 second thoughts. They bought a paper map at a gas station that sold both coffee and knives. Situate appeared as a coastline of teeth. The pier hid like a secret between them. Dusk was a bruise when they found the gate, uncharted, chained, guarded by a booth with no guard. The sign said closed and meant not for you. A black van idled beyond the fence. A man in a mariner's jacket smoked, eyes on the horizon as if the sea owed him rent. Emily, we need a ride. Mariner, this is a private charter. Eliza, We're private. Mariner. List says 2. Emily. We are 2. Mariner. 2 others. He flicked ash. Emily folded the kind of money that buys choices. The embers in his eyes recalculated. Mariner. Boat leaves in 10. Don't speak on the water, don't wave at the cameras, don't ask who else is aboard. The ferry was smaller than the word implies. Metal deck, plastic seats, a cabin that smelled like diesel and secrets. 2 more passengers boarded, faces shadowed, hands patient. The engine coughed into purpose. The town receded, the mouth of the harbor widened, and the ocean made its argument for forgetting. Emily gripped the rail until her knuckles told the truth. Lights rose ahead, low, orderly, unwelcoming. The island looked like a clinic designed by a storm to pass as kindness. They docked under a security camera that blinked green once, as if winking at its own reflection. The mariner waved them off with the bored generosity of a man who has ferried worse. A path curved through grasses buzzing with night. Signs whispered retreat, restorative journeys, silence please, each word a lie that had graduated. Inside the main building, reception waited empty, a bowl of lavender mints gone stale. A hallway branched left into rooms numbered with soft font. Right, a wing marked therapeutics. They headed right. At the end, another badge door, another humming promise. Eliza bent to the lock. Emily scanned the ceiling for eyes. Eliza. This one's smarter. Emily. So we get dumber. She slammed the fire bar on the emergency exit. Alarms shivered alive. Some doors open if you say please with a hammer. They ducked into a service corridor painted the color of compliance. A woman in scrubs rounded the corner and froze. Emily. We're lost. Scrubs. You're not supposed... Eliza. We know. Where's the archive? Scrubs. There is no... Emily, don't lie to someone who's already survived it. Scrubs looked at the alarms at their faces and at a door marked hydrotherapy. Scrubs, whisper. Behind the tanks. Eliza. Thank you. Scrubs. I didn't help you. The hydrotherapy room breathed steam. Behind a wall of fogged glass, tanks glowed like captive moons. A paneled section slid to reveal a narrow stair. They descended into the hum of machines that believed themselves to be doctors. The archive here was digital, racks of servers, blue lights blinking Morse code for obedience. A console waited, login prompt polite. Eliza plugged the rose-marked USB. The system hesitated, recognized its own offspring, and opened. Files bloomed across the screen. Garden 2, intake, retention, compliance metrics. Video thumbnails snapped into a grid of small faces, all too young or too hurt to look away. Emily scrolled. Stopped. G2's harm subject L01, gray, Lily, provisional. Timestamp, 2 days ago. She clicked. Lily again. Older, alive. The rose tattoo darker. Her eyes the same relentless question. Interviewer, off screen. We can help you sleep. Lily, I don't want to sleep, I want to remember. Interviewer. Then you'll hurt. Lily. Then I'll live. The feed cut to black, replaced by a status bar. Transfer scheduled. O2 Southall. Baltimore wing. Eliza. They're moving her tonight. Emily. We're not letting them. She copied the index and yanked the drive. The server room responded like a wounded animal, fans racing, lights blinking fury. Footsteps pounded above. A voice on a radio said her name wrong on purpose. Radio. Subject H confirmed on site. Eliza. They knew we were coming. Emily. Or they always know. That's how control works. A door burst. 2 guards filled the frame, one already reaching for the alarm on his belt. Eliza threw the switch on the main breaker. Darkness fell with a sound like a vow. They ran by memory and machine hum, up the stairs into the steam through the corridor of considerate paint. Shouts combed the air behind them. Reception loomed, a rectangle of moonlight and mint. They dove into it and kept moving out into the wind, across the path, into the grasses that had learned to bow without breaking. The dock came into view too quickly, the ferry still tied, the mariner arguing with a man in a suit whose haircut had a security clearance. Suit, you're not leaving. Mariner, you don't own the tide. Suit, we lease it. Emily and Eliza broke for the far side, boots slamming wood. The suit turned, hand rising. Not a gun. A phone more dangerous. Suit, Ms. Harper, you're trespassing. Emily, you're trafficking memory. For a second, the knight paused to listen. The mariner made the decision money had requested and duty refused. He untied the line. Mariner, board if you're boarding. They leapt. The ferry shoved itself away from the dock with the stubbornness of small things. Shouts chased them, radios crackling, the island's lights strobing into anger. Water opened, dark and indifferent. Wind tore their words apart, so they spoke with eyes. Eliza held up the drive. Emily nodded once. Eliza, yelling over engine. 2 a.m., Baltimore. Emily, then that's where truth goes next. Behind them, Graybridge Retreat shrank to a lit lie on black water. Ahead, the mainland waited with its own sharpened promises. Emily closed her eyes and saw Lily's face where horizon meets intent. Emily, to herself, stay awake, we're coming. The ocean didn't answer, but the engine did, faithful and furious, carving a line through the night that even memory would have trouble erasing. Baltimore slept with one eye open. Even the fog here felt rehearsed, thicker in alleys, polite around streetlights. The harbor's cranes stood frozen like gods who'd given up mid-blessing. Emily and Eliza arrived just after midnight, the ferry exchange already a blur of caffeine, cold, and disbelief. They parked under a bridge near the old industrial district where Graybridge listed its rehabilitation annex. In the moonlight, the annex looked like a hospital's ghost. Windows dark, fences tall, a single floodlight pretending to keep the peace. Eliza. Transfer was set for 2 a.m. That's 40 minutes. Emily. Plenty of time to ruin their schedule. They checked their gear. Flashlight, recorder, the rose-marked USB drive. Emily tucked Lily's photo in her jacket, more ritual than logic. The wind carried a faint hum from inside the compound. Not engines, monitors, electric sleep. They cut the outer fence and slipped through, breath sinking with the rhythm of danger. Inside the yard, the night smelled of disinfectant and rain-soaked iron. A van sat near the loading bay, white, unmarked, engine warm. Eliza. They're ready to move her, Emily. Then she's here. The back door of the van wasn't locked. Inside, gurney straps and oxygen tanks gleamed. A clipboard lay on the seat. Patient transfer, El Gray. Destination, G2 Cognitive Renewal Facility, Baltimore Wing. Escort, Miller D. Emily froze. The page blurred. Eliza, he's alive? Emily, he doesn't die, he just changes offices. Footsteps echoed behind them. They ducked into shadow as a security guard rounded the corner, radio in hand. He yawned, walked past, never noticing the ghosts 2 feet away. Eliza. We need inside now. Emily. Follow the cables. Electrical cords snaked from the van toward the main building like veins feeding a machine. They led to a basement door half hidden behind crates. Keypad lock, no time. Eliza jammed the handle with a screwdriver, twisted hard. Metal shrieked, then surrendered. They slipped into darkness that pulsed with sterile hums. Rows of cryopods lined the walls, transparent capsules filled with cold vapor, each tagged with a number. Screens displayed heart rates, brain waves, names blurred into code. Emily stopped at one near the center. Subject L01 vitals stable. Status, memory isolation, active. Inside, Lily Gray slept upright in a glass coffin, alive, still young, still dreaming someone else's dream. Emily, whisper. Lily, Eliza. We found her. Emily. No, they kept her. She touched the glass. Frost bloomed beneath her fingers. Machines beeped faster, reacting to human warmth like an alarm. A voice from behind. Voice. Step away. Miller. Gun drawn. Same coat. Same calm. Only his eyes had changed. Emptier, like even his reflection had stopped trusting him. Miller. You just don't quit. Emily. Neither do weeds. Miller. You should have left the garden buried. Emily. You can't bury something that remembers. He motioned toward Lily's pod. Miller. She volunteered to come back. You both did. Don't rewrite the story now. Eliza. We have her consent forms. Dated after her death certificate. Miller. Paperwork's just another kind of anesthesia. He aimed the gun, not at them, but at the pod's control panel. Miller. If I can't fix her, I'll finish her. Emily. You said the same 10 years ago. Miller. And you begged me to make you forget. The sound of that memory was heavier than the pistol. Emily stepped between him and the pod. Emily. Shoot me and the whole country watches it live. The feed's already uploading. A half smile ghosted across his lips. Miller. You learned my tricks. Emily. I learned yours. Eliza raised her phone, the camera light blinking red. Live stream. Every word was truth now, recorded in real time. Eliza. Smile for the viewers, Detective. Miller. You think this matters? The world forgives its monsters if they wear a lab coat. Emily. Not this time. She slammed the emergency release on Lily's pod. Alarms screamed. Frost shattered. Lily gasped awake, coughing through vapor. Her eyes darted between them, confusion first, recognition second. Lily. Anna? Emily. You remembered? Lily. I never forgot. Miller fired. The shot ricocheted, embedding in the steel wall. Eliza lunged, tackling him sideways. The gun clattered. Emily yanked the weapon across the floor with her foot and kicked it into the corner. Miller. You think you win by remembering? Memories rot. Emily. No. Lies do. Eliza pinned his arm until he stopped struggling. She looked up at Emily. Eliza. Call it in? Emily. No. Let the feed do it. Lily's breathing steadied, fog curling around her like smoke after victory. For a moment, the basement seemed to hold its breath too. Then sirens, real ones, approached, their echoes growing louder. Miller laughed, bitter and tired. Miller. You've given them a spectacle, not justice. Emily. Sometimes you have to start with noise. When the authorities broke in, flashlights flaring, they found 3 women standing where the shadows used to be. One awake from a decade's coma, one bleeding but alive, and one holding the camera that turned every secret into evidence. Hours later, dawn cracked over the harbor. Emily sat on the pier, wrapped in a blanket that smelled like disinfectant and closure. Lily slept in the ambulance behind her, pulse steady, face peaceful in ways it had never been in memory. Eliza stood guard beside her, coffee steaming in both hands. Eliza. They're taking him to federal custody, no bail. Emily. He'll talk. Eliza. He'll spin. Emily. Either way, the story's louder now. They watched the sun rise slow over the water, lighting the city in truth's reluctant glow. Reporters had already begun to gather at the fence, lenses hungry, questions louder than waves. Eliza. You think they'll believe it all? Emily. Doesn't matter, they'll remember it. The ambulance doors closed. Lily's reflection flickered once in the glass. Awake, aware, unbroken. Emily whispered to the wind. Emily. We found each other. Eliza smiled, tired and infinite. Eliza. And we kept the garden from blooming again. Emily. No. We just made sure it grows in sunlight now. A gull shrieked overhead, defiant. The tide rose, carrying fragments of last night's storm back to sea. For the first time, cold water and all its echoes felt far away. Still haunting, but smaller under daylight. Emily closed her eyes and heard not screams, not sirens, just breathing. Her own, Lily's, Eliza's. 3 rhythms rewriting the world together. The call came just after midnight. 1 ring, then silence. A pause so long it felt personal. Then a voice, low and cracked, like it had crawled out of an old recording. Voice, Anna, you promised me you'd keep quiet. The phone slipped from Emily's hand. The name hit her spine before her mind caught up. Anna, the woman from the diary, the woman she might have been. The line went dead. Only the sound of her own breathing filled the room. Outside, rain ticked against the window like someone trying not to knock. Emily stared at the phone. Her reflection fractured across the black screen. She checked the caller ID. Unknown. Of course, the past never calls with the number. She tried to shake it off. It was probably a prank, or a misdial, or maybe it wasn't. Minutes later, she dialed the local police. A young officer answered, voice too cheerful for midnight. Officer, Coldwater Police Department, what's your emergency? Emily. Someone called me, knew my name, not my name. Anna. Officer. You'd like to file a harassment report? Emily. No. I want to know who's calling. He hesitated. Officer. We can trace it if it happens again. Did they threaten you? Emily. Not directly, but it felt like a warning. They took her number, promised to forward it to a detective. 15 minutes later, another call. Voice. We shouldn't have buried it there. She didn't speak, afraid her voice would sound guilty. The call ended before she could breathe out the truth she didn't know. By morning, there was a knock at the door. A badge flashed in the light. Detective Miller. The name was a bruise returning to the surface. He looked the same, gray coat, eyes that cataloged people like evidence. His smile was paper thin. Miller. Miss Harper, we spoke once years ago after your accident. Emily. I don't remember. Miller. Most people don't remember trauma, that's how it works. He stepped inside uninvited, scanning the room like it owed him something. Miller. You said someone called you, said your name, or another one. Emily. Anna. Miller. That name mean anything to you? Emily. It used to, maybe still does. He studied her face, his expression hovering between recognition and something more dangerous. Miller. You know, I handled a missing persons case once. Girl named Anna Harper. Emily. Harper? Miller. Strange coincidence, isn't it? She swallowed. Emily. What happened to her? Miller. She disappeared, left a diary behind. A man went missing too. Case went cold. He reached into his coat and set a photo on the table. A woman smiling under gray sky. Same eyes, same mouth. Her. Or someone wearing her face. Miller. You look like her. Almost exactly. Emily. Who was she to you? Miller. A mistake I couldn't fix. He turned to leave but paused at the door. Miller. If that number calls again, don't answer. The past doesn't like conversation. When he was gone, the silence turned heavier, a weight with memory. Emily sat on the floor, the phone in her lap. The call history stared back, unhelpful and blank. Later that night, while walking through the kitchen, she stepped on a loose floorboard. It creaked differently this time, not hollow, more like breathing. She knelt, pried it open, and found a small hidden compartment wrapped in dust and time. Inside, an old phone, dead battery, no SIM card. But beneath it, a memory card taped to the casing. She charged it, inserted the card into her laptop. Hundreds of messages loaded. Old, time-stamped between 2013 and 2015, every single one from Detective Miller. Message 1. Meet me where we buried it. Message 12. Anna, you promised me you'd keep quiet. Message 47. If they find the tunnel, it's over. Her throat went dry. Each text felt like a drop of acid on something she used to call truth. One message stood out. Message 93. Sent the night of her supposed car accident. Miller. Don't run. You'll forget everything if you do. She leaned back, the glow of the screen painting her face ghost white. The truth wasn't coming back to her. It was calling her home. Then her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. No voice this time. Just breathing. Slow, deliberate, familiar. Emily. Who is this? A pause, then a whisper. Voice. You still sound like her. The call ended. She sat in the dark, the house suddenly too small for the ghosts it held. Every shadow looked like a secret. Every creak sounded like confession. Outside, lightning carved the sky open for half a second. And in that white flash, she saw a figure standing at the edge of her yard, still, facing the house, watching. When thunder rolled, he was gone. Emily whispered into the silence, Emily, what did we bury? But the house didn't answer. Only the wind moved, carrying something that sounded too much like a voice repeating her name. Morning came like a bad alibi, late and unconvincing. Emily brewed coffee she wouldn't drink and stared at the hidden phone on the table. It looked harmless the way dangerous things do when they're sleeping. She plugged it in, let it wake slowly like reviving a witness. No SIM. But the memory card didn't care about networks. It cared about truth. She opened the messages again, scrolling through the true crime mystery of her own life. Dates, times, coordinates, words that sounded like orders disguised as comfort. Message 27. Don't use the front road. Cut behind the bell. Message 45. Keep the diary off your person. Message 58. If anyone asks, you've never been to the garden. Message 61. Do not tell him about the tunnel. Behind the bell. She wrote it down. A bell where? Church? School? Harbor? She checked the attachments. A handful of audio notes, most barely a sentence long, breathing, footsteps on gravel, and one that made her skin pull tight. Miller, whisper. You promised me you'd keep quiet, Anna. She closed her eyes and let the voice walk circles in her head. Anna, not Emily. A name used like a key. She copied everything to a fresh drive, sealed the hidden phone in a plastic bag, and slid it into the freezer behind a sack of ice. Cold slows rot, even when the rot is memory. At the library, the internet felt too bright. She used a public terminal because paranoia was practical now. She dragged the audio into a wave editor, cleared the hiss, amplified the background. Under Miller's whisper, a hollow clang, then water, a bell near the sea. She searched Coldwater Bell Tower. Tourist photos spilled across the screen, harbor bells, church bells, and one she knew without ever remembering. The old boarding school bell tarnished, hanging like a throat at the end of a hall. Her pulse found a faster gear. She cross-checked the message timestamps with weather logs. The night of her accident had rain at 11:40 p.m. and a coastal fog advisory at midnight. The school's security archive had malfunctioned that week. A local blog had ranted about it for months. Convenient malfunction. Classic psychological thriller trick. Make the camera blink when the crime happens. The librarian pushed a cart past, gave her the softly suspicious look small towns reserve for strangers who type too fast. Emily smiled as if she had nothing to hide except an entire life. She printed the dates, circled the messages that mentioned a garden, an experiment, the bell, and the tunnel. She wrote, "Don't tell him," in the corner because it felt dangerous and familiar to obey notes from her former self. On her way out, she bought a scone she wouldn't eat and asked the cashier a question that sounded casual. Emily. "Does the old school bell still ring?" Cashier. "Only in storms. Wind catches it. Sounds like a ship dying." Emily. "Anyone go up there?" Cashier. "Kids. Ghost hunters. The bored and the brave." The bored and the brave. She wasn't either. She was desperate. Outside, the day wore gray like a uniform. She walked the cliff road home, replaying the messages until the words lost shape and became a map. Behind the bell. "Keep the diary off your person. Do not tell him about the tunnel." Him. Miller, Ben, someone else? At the cottage, she locked the door, drew the curtains, and laid the evidence on the table like it was her altar. Printouts, the diary, Anna's, not hers. Ben's old notebook with a few pages torn out. She flipped to the diary entry dated a week before her accident. "If I forget, remind me. The key is not a key. It rings." She read it 3 times, waiting for her brain to unlock its own riddle. The key rings. A ring. A bell. She stood, went to the hallway closet, and took down the old box of house junk Ben had always told her not to bother with. Inside, screws, a dead flashlight, picture hooks, and a brass handbell with a crack across its lip. When she lifted it, something rattled inside. She shook it once. A tiny brass cylinder slid into her palm, threaded, capped. Inside that, a paper coil, brittle as a moth's wing. She unfurled it slowly. Coordinates, not printed, not typed, written in her own slanted hand. A second line. "Don't go alone." Her throat tightened. She set the bell down so gently it didn't dare make a sound. The coordinates mapped to a place less than a mile away, north edge of the property line where the ground sank and the brush thickened. A place she never had reason to visit, which means she had every reason once. The phone vibrated. Unknown number. She put it on speaker and said nothing. Male voice. Calm. "Still digging, Anna." Emily. "Who is this?" Voice. "The one who knows what you buried." Emily. "Say your name." Voice. "Why? You'll forget." The line clicked. Her hands were steady, but only because fear had finished its work and become focus. She took a flashlight, gloves, a small crowbar. She left the diary. She left her phone. She took the bell. The sky had the color of old metal. In the trees, wind practiced being warning. She cut through brush until the ground dipped into a shallow bowl choked with ivy. Her GPS pulsed once, then settled, the blue dot sitting exactly where the numbers wanted it to be. Nothing obvious, no trapdoor, no marker, just Earth pretending it had never learned names. She walked the circle twice, listening. Silence, and under it, something hollow. The bell felt heavier than brass. She rang it once. The sound wasn't pretty. It was a throat clearing in a buried room. A bird exploded from a low branch. Her heart climbed into her mouth and refused to come back down. She knelt, pressed her ear to the ground. There, faint, a sympathetic ring from below. Near a patch of ivy shaped like a tear. She peeled it back. Under roots and dirt, her fingers found rotted wood, boards, joined by rusted hinges. The crowbar's first bite tore splinters. The second found leverage. The third pulled a square of darkness open like a lid. Cold air exhaled. Old, wet, human. Ladder rungs led into the hole, wood slick, iron nails fat with rust. She stared down, then up, then down again, as if courage might change its answer. She turned on the flashlight, sent the beam into the throat of the earth. The light hit stone, then a narrow passage veined with roots. She did not go in. Not yet. The note had said, "Don't go alone," and for once she listened to the echo of her own good sense. She closed the hatch gently, pulled the ivy back in place, then pressed a flat rock on top, a promise to return, not a tomb. On the way back to the cottage, the road felt shorter and the shadows taller. A police cruiser idled at the turnoff. Detective Miller leaned on the hood like a man who had never been asked to wait for anything. Miller, you didn't answer my last message. Emily, I'm selective. Miller, selective gets people killed. Emily, obedience too. He smiled as if she'd said something flirtatious. Miller, tell me what you found. Emily, a reason to stop trusting you. Miller, you say that every time you get close. He circled her once, head tilted, a wolf pretending to be an art critic. Miller, you're pale, mud on your knees, ivy on your sleeves, you've been digging. Emily, I went for a walk. Miller, into the ground? She didn't answer. He held her gaze until silence became a hand around her throat. Miller, you won't like what's under there. Emily, you already know. Miller, of course, I helped you bury it. The world went very still. Emily, what did we bury? Miller, promises. He got into the car and drove away like a man leaving the scene of an unreported truth. Back inside, she washed dirt off her fingers and watched the water run brown, then clear. She dried her hands on the corner of a towel Ben had always claimed was for guests, as if they'd had any. She opened the diary again to a page she hadn't seen. A pressed petal fell into her lap, white, fragile, edged with a memory of red. If you are reading this, you forgot why we hid her. Her breath caught. Her. Not it. Not a thing. She reread it 3 times. Her eyes kept adding letters to the word until it spelled another. Hers. Memory is greedy like that. She took the bell to the freezer, pulled the plastic bag forward, and swapped the hidden phone for her own. She typed a message she had no right to send. To Eliza, the number Lily had trusted once years ago. I need you. Don't come to the house. Meet me at the old school bell. Bring light. Bring truth. She hovered over send, then pressed it anyway, trusting the kind of faith that grows only in people who have run out of safe options. The reply came in under a minute. On my way. Don't go alone. She smiled despite the dread. Even ghosts obey house rules. She shut the curtains, packed a small bag, flashlight, rope, gloves, water, a knife that felt silly until it didn't. She slid the diary into a plastic sleeve, kissed the cover without meaning to, then left it on the table as collateral. Before she stepped out, she looked at her reflection in the window. A woman with 2 names stared back, Emily for daylight, Anna for the parts of night that remember everything. Emily, to the glass. We're going under. The wind picked up, the kind that rings bells without asking. And somewhere behind the trees, the earth waited with its mouth open, patient as a grave that already knows your story. Tomorrow would be Section 6's work, blood, letters, and a tunnel beneath the house. But the night had already signed the warrant. All that remained was to keep one promise to herself. Don't go alone, and don't stop until the unsolved murder mystery stops hiding behind her face. The night fell heavy over Coldwater, thick as breath held too long. Emily stood beneath the crooked outline of the school bell tower, her flashlight a trembling circle of light in the mist. The metal bell hung motionless above, rust bleeding down its sides like dried tears. Every step she took echoed louder than it should have. She checked her phone. No messages. Eliza was supposed to be here. Maybe she'd changed her mind. Or maybe someone changed it for her. The fog shifted, someone approaching from the woods. Her pulse jumped. But when the shadow broke through the light, it was Eliza, breathless, her coat dripping. Eliza, you weren't kidding about midnight. Emily, you came. Eliza, you said bring light. I brought truth too, if we still believe in that. Eliza lifted a small recorder and a flash drive. Eliza, I hacked Miller's backup server. There's something you need to hear. They crouched behind the tower, the flashlight dimmed, and she pressed play. Static first, then Miller's voice. Miller, recording. Subject A, memory suppression completed. Subject B shows resistance. If she remembers, the entire operation collapses. Unidentified voice. Then make her forget again or make her disappear. Miller. Which one? Voice. Both. The body will explain itself. Emily's stomach dropped. Emily. Subject A. Anna. Subject B. Eliza. Emily. Emily. They ran 2 tests. Eliza. And erased one name. The recorder clicked off. Only the sea spoke, distant and restless. Eliza. He wasn't working alone. Emily. No, he never does. She stared up at the bell, its shadow swinging faintly in the wind. The coordinates, the messages, the tunnel. It all began here, and whatever she'd buried 10 years ago, it was waiting below. They pushed through the ivy near the tower's base until they found the hatch Emily had unearthed earlier. The soil was disturbed again, the lock gone. Eliza. Someone's been here. Emily. Or never left. They pulled the hatch open and descended, flashlights slicing through damp air. The tunnel swallowed sound. Roots brushed the ceiling. Walls shimmered with condensation like sweating stone. Eliza. How deep does it go? Emily. Far enough to hide the truth. A narrow passage opened into a small chamber, half collapsed, smelling of mold and old iron. On the far wall, a table, and on the table, a box wrapped in black plastic. Emily peeled the plastic away with shaking hands. Inside, photographs, hundreds, printed, labeled, cataloged, each of her face, different dates, different names. Eliza. These aren't surveillance shots, they're experiments. Emily. He was documenting memory drift. Each photo is a version of me that forgot something different. Beneath the photos, a phone, not hers. Old gray, screen cracked. When she touched it, it buzzed once, alive. A message blinked on screen. You found me, now remember why. The flashlight flickered. A faint hum rose from deeper within the tunnel, electric, rhythmic, mechanical. Eliza. There's power down here. Emily. Someone kept it running. They followed the sound through a narrow corridor, ducking beneath beams. At the end, a reinforced door with a keypad, lights still blinking green. It wasn't locked. Inside was a small underground lab, equipment rusted but functional. Old monitors, cables, IV bags with sediment inside. On the wall, a timeline drawn in chalk. Names connected by arrows. Anna, Emily, subject 03, L. Gray. Emily's knees went weak. Emily. Lily. They tested her after me. Eliza. They didn't stop the project. They transferred it. Footsteps from the tunnel entrance. Slow, deliberate. They turned off the flashlights, crouched behind the table. A voice echoed down the hall. Miller's calm and steady. Miller. You couldn't leave it buried for... Could you? He stepped into the light of the room, gun in hand. He looked older now. Gray streaks, shadows under his eyes, but the same cold precision. Miller. You had one job, Anna. Forget. Emily. My name isn't Anna. Miller. It was when we built you. Her breath caught. Eliza. Built? Miller. Constructed, rewritten, same thing. She was never meant to survive remembering. He raised the gun, gesturing toward the wall of photos. Miller. Every cycle we erased a little more until she stayed quiet, but you... He pointed at Eliza. Miller. You helped her wake up. Eliza. You can't erase everyone. Miller. No. But I can stop the noise. Before he could fire, the bell above them rang, once deafening metallic thunder rolling down through stone. Miller froze, startled by the impossible sound. Eliza lunged. The gun went off. bullets sparking against the metal wall. Emily tackled him, the two crashing into the table, photographs scattered like birds. The recorder hit the floor, switched itself on. Miller's voice looped through the room again. If she remembers, the entire operation collapses. Eliza grabbed the gun, aimed it with shaking hands. Eliza. It's over, Miller. You think this ends with me? The garden has roots you can't dig out. Emily. Then we'll burn it. The ground shuddered, an old pipe giving way, water bursting from the corner. The chamber flooded fast, washing over the fallen photos, the machines, the past itself. Miller tried to crawl toward the door, but Emily grabbed his collar. Emily, what did we bury here? Miller, the truth that you're not her. Emily, who am I, then? Miller, you're what's left when guilt tries to stay alive. He pushed her back and disappeared into the collapsing tunnel. The water rose waist-high, freezing. Eliza shouted. Eliza, we need to move. They stumbled toward the ladder, climbing one rung at a time as the chamber filled below them. The bell still rang above, shaking dust loose like rain. They burst through the hatch into night air, soaked, gasping. The bell gave one final toll and stopped. Silence returned like a closing book. They lay on the wet grass, staring at the stars that refused to blink. Eliza. He got away, Emily. He'll run out of places to hide. People like him always do. Eliza. You okay? Emily. I don't know who I am anymore. Eliza. That's a start. Real people never do. Emily laughed softly, the sound cracked and real. Somewhere below, the tunnel groaned and sealed itself in mud and memory. She stood, dripping, looking back at the tower. The bell swayed in the wind but didn't ring. It had said what it needed to say. Emily, whatever he buried, I'm done keeping it quiet. Eliza, then let's make them listen. They walked toward the fading lights of the town, the horizon splitting between night and dawn. Every step left mud and truth behind them. Somewhere Miller was running. Somewhere else Lily Gray was waiting. And above them all, cold water exhaled like a town that had finally decided to wake up. The dawn smeared a pale stripe across the ocean and stopped trying. The cottage looked smaller in that half-light, like a lie shrinking when you stare at it too long. Emily unlocked the door with hands that still smelled of wet earth and history. Eliza followed, shoulders tense, eyes cataloging exits the way survivors do. They didn't speak at first. Silence let the rooms show their tells, the crooked frame above the mantel, the rug that never laid flat, the draft that came from a wall that shouldn't breathe. Emily set her flashlight on the table, beam low, and pulled the diary toward her, the one signed Anna Harper in handwriting that matched her own. She flipped to the last cluster of entries, the ones she'd avoided because some pages feel booby-trapped. If you're reading this, it means the house remembered me before I did. Under the hearth, 3 bricks from the corner, blood, letters, and a key that isn't a key. Eliza leaned in. Eliza, you think this is a map or a dare? Emily, both. That's how the best traps work. They moved the armchair aside. Dust rose and faded like an old performance. Emily ran her fingers along the hearthstones until one scraped different under her nails. 3 bricks from the corner, just like the entry promised. She pried with a butter knife. Mortar cracked, the brick lifted, and a neat cavity revealed itself the way secrets do when they get tired. Inside, an envelope sealed with dark wax, a small metal cylinder, and a square of cloth that had chosen a color no laundry could forget. Blood, dried to a bruise. Emily didn't touch the cloth yet. Not out of squeamishness, out of respect. She broke the wax with her thumb. The paper inside smelled like damp cedar and a long night. Ben, if I forget, keep this safe from him. If I remember, give it back. If I disappear, burn it and pretend we were happy. A. Eliza exhaled slowly. Eliza. He kept it. He didn't burn it. Emily. Ben always preferred control to honesty. The metal cylinder twisted open with a soft complaint. Inside, a micro SD card wrapped in tape and a flimsy brass key stamped with the number 17. Eliza. Locker? Storage unit? Emily. School. The tag I found in the hall AH was from a locker, but this looks like home hardware. Eliza. Basement? Emily. Or something pretending not to be a basement. Emily finally lifted the folded square of cloth. A scarf scrap. White originally, she thought, but mottled, stiff along the edge where blood had written a story with no adjectives. Her stomach knotted. A memory flickered, too quick to hold. White roses. A laugh cut short. The smell of copper and rain. Eliza. This is the first physical proof. Emily. Proof of what? Eliza. That a body bled where a story says it didn't. They photographed everything, angles, timestamps, glove prints instead of fingerprints. The ritual steadied their breaths. This wasn't just a psychological thriller anymore. This was a realistic crime mystery waking up, demanding paperwork. When the pictures were done, Emily slid the micro SD into a cheap reader. Her laptop choked, coughed, and opened a folder called Letters. They weren't letters at all. They were recordings. Short, name-tagged. One said, Lily, last. Another, M threat. A third, garden, proof. Emily clicked the last first. Static, then Ben's voice thin and lecturing. Ben, recording. Garden protocol is suspended until funding resumes. Detective insists we archive everything under the cottage until transport. If she remembers the bell. The file cut off mid-breath. She opened M, threat. Miller's voice slid into the room like oil. Miller, recording. If you run, I bury the both of you, her body and your memory. You think grief can't be engineered? Watch me. Eliza swore under her breath. Emily didn't. Anger and nausea had made a temporary truce down in the tunnel. Up here, they kept it. She hovered over Lily. Last. Her thumb shook when she pressed play. Lily, small, hoarse. Anna, if this doesn't end the way we hoped, don't let them turn me into a lesson. We were more than what they did to us. No plea. No scream. A sentence like a stone in a pocket. Weight, not drama. Eliza, they never released a body. Emily. Mara's tip said the paperwork was forged. These recordings make it a crime scene without a corpse. The floor trembled, not metaphor. Something shifted below them like a beast turning in sleep. Emily knelt again, pressed her ear to the boards. There, the faintest rhythm. Not water, air. Eliza. The diary said a tunnel. We found one by the bell. There could be another under the house. Emily. Ben always said the crawl space was sealed. He was telling the truth the way liars do. They pulled the rug aside. The boards beneath had been patched in a rectangle that knew it was a door. Screws newer than the wood. Emily fetched a screwdriver, turned each head with steady wrists. The panel lifted, breathed cool, damp air up their faces. A wooden ladder descended into a dark that felt designed. Emily tested a rung. It held. She looked at Eliza. Eliza. We go together. Emily. Don't let go. They went down, one rhythm, one light. The tunnel was narrower than the bell chamber's throat, more intentional. Concrete reinforced with steel ribs, conduit fastened along one wall. This wasn't a bootleg hideaway. This was construction with funding. A place where unsolved murder had met engineering. 10 yards in, the passage opened into a rectangular room. A generator crouched at the far end, humming like a tame animal. On a folding table lay a lockbox, stainless steel, clinical and cruel. The brass 17 key turned with a click someone had expected and never wanted to hear. Inside, paper envelopes labeled in Ben's clean hand. Protocols, consent, L photos, M directives, A cycles. Under those, a plain envelope without label, heavy with something that made Emily's bones cold. She opened the last one first. A wedding ring slid into her palm, not hers. A simple band engraved inside, "To Ben, forever Anna." For a second the room leaned. She reached for the table, felt Eliza's hand find her elbow, steadied. Eliza. Could be staged. Emily. Could be mine, could be hers. Eliza. Either way, it's leverage. They bagged the ring and moved through the other envelopes with the care of people handling landmines. Protocols contained typed templates for memory partition, obedience conditioning, and a cheery brochure draft titled Cognitive Renewal. Consent was a stack of signatures, teenagers and their parents, a row of names who'd been told recovery and given erasure. Elf photos stopped Emily's hands. She turned them over one by one. Lily under the trellis of white roses. Lily in a clinical chair with sensors on her temples. Lily in a hallway, eyes too bright. Lily on the ground, throat dark, captioned by a monster. Trial complete, Eliza. This is enough to arrest a board of directors. Emily. And bury a town. The M directives envelope held memos on police letterhead. Pull evidence, reroute calls, lose a tape, misfile a report. Some bore signatures. Some didn't need them. The last envelope, A cycles, was thin, almost empty. Inside, a single Polaroid of Emily sleeping, date scrawled across the bottom, and a sticky note. Cycle 7 holds. No new confessions. Eliza. They watched you like weather. Emily. They forecasted me. Above, a board creaked, the unmistakable sound of a footstep that didn't belong to the house settling. The generator hummed on. The documents lay between them, raw and loud. Eliza, whisper. We're not alone. Emily. Miller? Eliza. Or someone sent to finish what he can't. Footfalls crossed the living room overhead. Slow, listening steps. Emily killed the flashlight. Dark swallowed them whole. They counted heartbeats to keep from counting possibilities. A hinge whispered. The crawlspace panel above squeaked, then halted. Whoever was up there didn't know the ladder, or they knew and didn't want to climb. A phone buzzed in Emily's pocket, the vibration shrill in the quiet. She didn't look. She already knew what it would say. She read it by feel anyway when the steps retreated. A text from an unknown number. 3 words that turned the tunnel's air colder. Leave her there, Eliza. Lily, Emily, or me. They packed as fast as care allowed. Photos, directives, the ring. The recordings into 2 canvas bags that suddenly felt like evidence and anchors. On the way back, Emily paused at the ladder and looked once more into the room. The generator humming. The table still showing a rectangle of dust where the lockbox had sat for years. The dark corners that had learned to keep secrets without blinking. Emily, to the room. I remember. The house answered with another board creak, distant now, as if even the intruder had decided the truth was noisier than footsteps. They climbed, sealed the panel, slid the rug back, and stood in the small, ordinary living room of a cottage that had doubled as a crime scene and a laboratory. Eliza set the bags on the table and leaned both hands on the wood. Eliza, we go to Mara, we go to the feds, we go loud. Emily, we go careful. Loud gets you killed if you're early, Eliza, and quiet keeps people disappearing. Emily looked at the scarf scrap, the ring, the envelopes, the open diary waiting like a throat that finally wants to speak. The phone buzzed again. She turned it face up this time. A photo filled the screen, live, current, shot from somewhere nearby. The cottage window, this table, 2 women in a frame that should have been private, and a caption. Next, the letters. Eliza's eyes met hers, steady, resigned, ready. Emily. They want us to run, Eliza. Then we walk, Emily. Into the light, Eliza. And into the next tunnel. Outside, the wind rose. The ocean changed its tempo. And the house, faithful, treacherous, kept breathing as if it knew Section 6 wasn't finished with blood, letters, or the tunnel beneath its heart. They didn't turn on the lights. The cottage glowed only with ocean gray and the low pulse of the generator below, a heartbeat under the floor. The newest text still stared from Emily's phone. Next, the letters. Eliza, they're watching the window. We move clean. Emily, we split. You take the directives and Lily's photos to Mara's safe drop. I'll carry the decoy. Eliza, you sure? Emily, they want me to run. I'll let them think I did. They repacked fast. Real evidence into Eliza's canvas bag. Decoys, blank paper and labeled envelopes, into Emily's backpack. The scarf scrap and ring went with Eliza. The diary stayed with Emily, a live wire she refused to put down. Before they stepped out, Emily flipped to an entry she'd ignored, words faint where tears had once fallen. The letters are not in envelopes. The letters are in the margins. She held the page against the window's gray and saw it, the faintest string of penciled letters climbing the outer edge of 3 entries. Not words. A cipher. Eliza. You seeing it? Emily. She hit a root in the diary. They transcribed the marginal letters onto a receipt. Every third letter made sense. Every second word pointed to places around town like breadcrumbs. Wharf, locker, box 17, bell, post. Eliza. Box 17, the key. Emily. Post office, not school. They left through the back, cutting along the hedge to the lane. No cars, only fog that wanted to be kind but couldn't. At the first corner, Eliza peeled off toward the cliffs and the footpath to town. Emily took the road. Her phone buzzed. Unknown. Wrong bag, Anna. She muted the thread, pocketed the screen like a dare. The Coldwater post office sat square and tired, its flag at half-staff for reasons no one remembered. Inside, the air smelled like coins and damp cardboard. Old brass boxes lined the wall in tidy rows. 17 blinked at her like a clock that never learned time. The brass key turned. A small bundle slid forward. Plain envelopes bound with twine, a memory card taped to the back, and an old library card stamped with a date 10 years dead. She didn't open them there, not under the camera blinking red in the corner. She slipped the stack into her jacket and walked out like a regular person carrying regular mail. Across the street, a black SUV idled, windows dark, license plate mud-dimmed. Emily kept walking. Her reflection in the gift shop window looked calm. Her heart argued. She cut down the alley, tossed her decoy backpack into an overflowing dumpster with a soft thud, and slipped through the back of the bait shop to the wharf. Gulls screamed without picking sides. A hand closed on her elbow. She spun, breath primed to be a weapon, and stopped. Mara, you're brave or reckless? Emily, both. Mara, Eliza pinged me. She's en route. Emily, good. I have mail. They ducked into a storage shed that smelled like rope and storm. Emily cut the twine, spread the envelopes under a cracked skylight. No addresses, no stamps. Just 2 sets of handwriting she knew like scars. Ben's tidy lines and Miller's impatient slant. She opened Ben's first. The tunnel's done. We stage evidence beneath the cottage tonight. Subject H is fragmenting under pressure. Cycle 7 holds if we keep her environment controlled. The bell cue works. She follows sound. B. Another? M.L. Suspects we operate from the school. Move her to the wharf entrance next time. If she keeps pressing, we switch to accident. B. Miller's replies were worse. B. The parents will sign anything if the brochure says renewal. Keep the garden language. People like growth. M. And then a short one, the night everything fractured. Bio, if she takes the diary, you know what to do. The river solves our paperwork. Monsieur Mara. This is a racketeering case wearing a lab coat. Emily, it's also murder. Emily peeled the tape off the memory card and handed it over. Mara slotted it into a field reader, the screen humming to life. Video thumbnails tiled the display. Timestamps, room labels, faces Emily wanted to forget and needed to remember. One marked wharf. Entrance cam opened to a frame of black water. A metal door set into rock and a single light over the jam. Two figures in rain climbed out of the dark. Lily first, frightened and bright. Then Emily, younger, jaw set the way people set bones. Ben's voice from off-screen. Through here. We'll keep you safe. Emily. He brought us through the sea cave. Mara. So the tunnel has two mouths. The shed's door rattled. Mara killed the screen. Voices outside, low, professional, bored. The kind of bored that shoots clean. Mara, whisper. You leave by the water. Emily. And you? Mara. I work for noise. She slipped the card into her jacket, stepped out the front, and started talking. Loud, cheerful, pointed, into her phone that wasn't on, narrating a fake call the way a reporter hides a source. Emily eased through the back hatch and out onto the wet planks, then down an iron ladder to a narrow shelf of rock behind the pilings. Spray salted her face. Below, the tide said the same word over and over now. 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 She edged along the rock to the seawall. There, a rusted door half hidden behind kelp and barnacles, same as the video. When the wave withdrew, she lunged, grabbed the handle, and yanked. It stuck, then gave, coughing up a smell like wet iron and old instructions. Inside, her light caught slick stone and fresh boot prints. Not old. Today. She moved slowly, counting breaths. The passage sloped up, then leveled. A second door waited, newer, with a keypad smeared by fingers that didn't believe in gloves. She tapped 201 and 3 the year everything turned. Green. The lock snicked. A small anteroom. Locker units stacked too high, numbered. She scanned until 17 found her again. The brass key turned. Inside, another ring box, a shrink-wrapped phone, and a plastic sleeve of photographs labeled "Letters deliver if she remembers." She opened the sleeve. Photos of envelopes, postmarked years ago, never mailed, addressed to Anna Harper in a dozen places she never lived, each containing a single letter like the world's worst acrostic. First letters in order spelled a sentence. Remember where the water enters. Emily, to the empty room. I did. Bootsteps close. She killed her light, slid behind a locker stack, and stilled every argument her body wanted to make. 2 men entered, voices flat. Man 1, check the wharf cams again. Man 2, feeds looped, someone smart. Man 1, she always was. They opened lockers. Metal sighs like reluctant witnesses. A phone vibrated. Man 1 cursed. Man 1, change of plan, pick up moves to the bell. Man 2, now. Man 1, now. Their footsteps retreated, the door sealed with a sound like a timeline snapping shut. Emily counted to 30, then 10 more, then ran. She took the reverse path, door, keypad, rock shelf, ladder, and came up in the rain just as a black SUV rolled past the wharf toward the road that climbed to the school. Mara jogged out of the shed, face flushed, eyes alive. Mara, you got them? Emily, more letters, and a new meeting place. Mara, Eliza? Emily, on the cliff path, we converge at the bell. They cut through the back alleys, keeping walls at their shoulders and the ocean at their left like a map you can trust. Sirens rose somewhere inland, a chorus without lyrics. At the foot of the hill, Emily stopped. Mara. What? Emily, he won't expect me to walk in. Mara. He'll expect anything. Emily. Then we give him proof. She handed Mara the sleeve of letters, the memory card from the locker, And the ring box from 17. Emily, if I don't come down by sunrise, air it all. Live. No edits. Mara, you'll come down. Emily, tell Eliza where the water enters. Mara gripped her wrist once, warm, human, and ran. Emily climbed alone, the bell a dark coin against the sky. Halfway up, her phone buzzed. Unknown. We finish where we started. She typed back, then bring the truth. No dots, no reply, just wind and the bell's faint throat song as the storm leaned in to listen. Rain started before dawn, steady and cold, painting the hill black and slick. Emily stood beneath the bell tower again, soaked to her bones, heart calm in a way that only exhaustion earns. The town below looked half drowned. Fog rolled in like smoke from an old confession. She waited. Every echo from the road made her tighten her grip on the flashlight. When Eliza appeared through the mist, her hood down, her eyes told her everything. Eliza. Mara's gone. Emily. Gone where? Eliza. Her car's still at the wharf, phone smashed, she's off the grid or someone put her there. Emily's jaw set. The world had started erasing its witnesses again. Emily. Then we do this ourselves. Eliza. We're not cops. Emily. No. That's why we can still find the truth. They ducked into the tower's base, the same hatch leading down to the tunnel. The air below smelled stronger now, diesel, wet steel, and something faintly human. The tunnel wasn't just breathing anymore, it was humming. Someone had powered it back on. They followed the vibration to a junction that hadn't been there before. Fresh concrete, new lights. A keypad blinked, the same cheap model Miller always used. Emily tried 2013, denied. Then she tried 1700, the number on the key. Green. The door opened to a wide chamber lined with monitors, all displaying camera feeds, streets, the wharf, the school. In the center, a desk stacked with police files stamped evidence restricted. Eliza moved closer, scanning names. Eliza. These are official reports. Coldwater PD 2013 to 2016. Miller wasn't just protecting the project. He was the project. Emily. Look at the headers. Each page bore the same initials, MH and Command Liaison. Miller had signed every case. Missing girls, accidental drownings, suicides that didn't match their own autopsies. Eliza. He used police resources to control the narrative. Emily. He rewrote crimes into compliance. Emily flipped one folder open and froze. A photo, her face younger, labeled Anna Harper, witness relocation. Below it, psychological conditioning completed. Subject stable under new identity. Her throat locked. Eliza. They didn't just erase memories, they manufactured people. Emily. Including me. Another folder, Mara's name. Filed under internal affairs, unresolved, printed over her photo, neutralized. Eliza. Neutralized means, Emily. Dead or disappeared. Both are silence. She reached for the next folder when footsteps echoed in the hall. One man, calm, confident. That rhythm didn't need a name anymore. Miller stepped into the doorway, rain still shining on his coat, his gun dangling loose at his side. Miller. You keep showing up where you shouldn't. Emily. And you keep proving I should. Miller. You've done enough damage, Anna. Emily. Stop calling me that. He walked closer, eyes cold, smile faint. Miller. Names are currency. You traded yours for safety once, remember? Emily. I remember you holding a gun over a child's body. Miller. That wasn't a body, that was data. You of all people should appreciate precision. Eliza shifted behind the desk, searching for a weapon, found a metal file weight. Miller's gaze flicked toward her hand. Miller. Try it. See what happens. Eliza. You killed Mara. Miller. She forgot her place. Reporters die of curiosity every day. Emily took a slow step forward. Emily, you recorded everything, every trial, every death. Those files, Miller, destroyed tomorrow morning. The department believes a gas leak will do the job. Eliza, you're burning the evidence. Miller, evidence is just paper. The real proof is in what people believe. He turned the gun toward Emily. Miller, you want to be remembered, don't you? That's your flaw. You think memory equals justice. It doesn't. It's just maintenance. Emily, you're not erasing me again. Miller, you already erased yourself. I just watched. The lights flickered, the generator struggling. Emily lunged, slamming the desk sideways. Papers flew, screens cracked. The gun went off, shattering a monitor beside her head. Eliza threw the file weight. It hit Miller's wrist, gun clattering to the floor. He kicked it away and charged, grabbing Emily by the collar, slamming her into the metal cabinets. Miller, you think this ends here? Emily, it ends where it started. She drove her elbow into his ribs, twisted free, and jammed a stun baton taken from the wall rack into his side. He convulsed, fell to one knee, gasping, eyes wild. Miller, you don't know the half of it. Emily, then tell me before the power dies. Miller, you think I ran the garden? You think I was the architect? No, I was just the gardener. Someone else planted it. Eliza, who? Miller, you'll meet them soon. They've been waiting for you to remember. He smiled, even as blood slid from his mouth. Miller, you're still in the experiment. The words hung heavier than gunfire. Then the lights cut out. Total dark. The hum stopped. Only breathing. 3 patterns, one slowing. A red glow blinked on. Backup power. Miller was gone. Only his gun remained, lying in the middle of the floor. The file cabinets rattled, still shaking from where he'd hit them. Outside, a siren wailed, then died halfway through the note. Eliza, he's not human. Emily, he's worse. He's right. They gathered what files they could carry, shoving them into their coats, and ran. The corridor stretched longer than it should have, the tunnel swallowing their footsteps. When they reached the ladder, the first fire alarms began screaming behind them. They climbed into rain thick as smoke. Below, faint orange light flickered through the cracks in the earth. The underground lab was burning, just like he promised. Eliza, we should call for help. Emily, we already did. We just didn't know when. The siren rose again, distant but closing. Emily looked back one last time at the tower silhouetted against fire. Somewhere below it, truth turned to ash, but memory, hers, theirs, was finally stubborn enough to stay. She whispered to the night, to whatever still listened. Emily, no more shadows. We bring this into daylight. Eliza nodded once. They started down the hill, their faces lit by the burning evidence of the past, walking toward a dawn that would have to choose whose story to believe. They reached the road just as dawn cracked open, gray, washed out, cold. Sirens still howled in the distance, growing smaller, swallowed by fog. Smoke from the underground fire curled upward like memory trying to escape. Eliza pulled the soaked folders from her coat, spreading them on the hood of an abandoned car. Most were ruined, ink bled, pages warped, but one still legible report had the header Coldwater PD Internal Memorandum, Project Echo. Eliza, he said we're still in the experiment. Maybe this is what he meant. Emily, Project Echo, a study in controlled recall, trigger-based identity reformation. Eliza, meaning? Emily, they planted memories instead of removing them. She traced a sentence near the bottom. Subjects will reconstruct their own false pasts when guided through familiar trauma stimuli. Eliza, he didn't erase you. He made you rewrite yourself. Emily, and then stood back to watch the story play out. The realization didn't come with fear. It came with disgust. She'd been narrating her own cage and calling it healing. Eliza. What now? Emily. We find who signed off on this. A line at the bottom of the form carried a typed name. Chief Marianne Holt. Emily blinked. Emily. M.H. Eliza. Miller's initials. Emily. No. Hers. He was covering her tracks. The police chief herself, the person running every public statement about the case, was the missing architect. The gardener had just named his seed. They turned off the main road and headed into town, avoiding patrols. Coldwater woke slow, its people oblivious to the smoke behind the hills. They ducked into a diner that smelled like old coffee and the kind of music no one listens to on purpose. Emily spread the surviving pages on a booth table while Eliza watched the window. The waitress brought 2 mugs and asked no questions. The world hadn't caught up yet. The report listed an address. Coldwater Police HQ, Basement Archive, Room 7B. Stamped authorized personnel only. Eliza. 7B. Another 7, cycle 7, box 17. Everything loops on 7. Emily. The experiments repeated in 7s. They used it to time resets. Her reflection in the diner window looked back like it didn't believe her. A woman half-made, stitched from secrets. Eliza. We go now? Emily. Before they seal it off. They left the diner through the back alley, crossed the lot behind the gas station, and reached the rear entrance of the police building. The back door had an access pad. Eliza knelt, prying off the casing with her knife. The wiring inside was familiar, same setup as the tunnel. Eliza. He reused tech from the garden. This whole department runs on recycled crimes. Emily. Can you bypass it? Eliza. Give me 30 seconds. The door clicked. They slipped inside. The corridor was sterile. Linoleum, flickering bulbs, the faint hum of servers below. They moved like ghosts through the sleeping station. Posters on the wall read integrity, duty, justice. Each word now looked like sarcasm carved into drywall. At the elevator, the panel had a key slot. Emily tried the brass 17 key. It turned and the doors slid open. She exhaled without smiling. Even lies follow patterns. The basement was colder. Concrete walls, low lights, file shelves endless as guilt. Signs painted on the walls. Archive A closed. Evidence hold room 7B. Room 7B waited behind a steel door marked hazardous storage. Emily pushed it open. Rows of filing cabinets. One red light blinking in the far corner, and a wall of photos. Hundreds pinned in grids. Faces of every missing person tied to Coldwater for the last decade. Lily's face appeared 5 times, each photo slightly older. One had status pending release stamped across the bottom. Another, do not disclose. Eliza. It's all of them, every subject. Emily. And every cover-up. She scanned the cabinets, labels reading echo, observation, cycle reports, media control, disposal logs. At the very back, a small metal box sat on a pedestal under a single bulb. Label, command file, M. Holt. Emily opened it. Inside, a leather-bound notebook embossed with the police insignia. The first line, Garden 1 failed because emotion can't be deleted. It has to be redirected. The next page, Anna Harper volunteered. Her memory matrix proved resilient. We preserved her pattern as a control variable. She froze. Her name wasn't an alias, it was a template. They hadn't rebuilt her, they'd copied her over and over through others. Emily. I was the test case. Eliza. They replicated you. Emily. Every time someone forgot, they were wearing my blueprint. Footsteps, voices. Real ones this time. Uniforms on patrol below. Eliza grabbed the camera from her jacket, snapping fast. Files, notebook pages, photo wall. Evidence before arrest. Eliza, we have what we need. Emily, not yet. She tore the last page from the notebook. At the bottom, coordinates in a single phrase. Final control, Facility Delta. Eliza, another site, Emily, or the last one still running. They stuffed the copies into her coat just as the footsteps reached the hall. Flashlights swept through the crack beneath the door. A voice shouted, "Who's in there?" Emily whispered, "Emily, back exit." They slipped behind the filing cabinets to a maintenance hatch half hidden by boxes. It opened into a vent shaft, narrow but clear. They crawled, metal clanging beneath them. The sound drew shouts behind. A flashlight beam brushed Emily's boot. She kicked hard. The cover slammed shut. Then silence except for their breathing. At the far end, the vent dropped into an alley behind the station. They landed hard, knees scraping gravel. Dawn had broken for real now, the town stirring to another day, pretending to be ordinary. Eliza wiped her face, eyes wide. Eliza, you good? Emily, no, but I'm real. That's a start. They ducked into shadow, merging with morning. Emily clutched the notebook page tight in her hand, the coordinates smearing in sweat. A map to something worse than memory. Facility Delta. Eliza, how far? Emily, 2 hours south. Eliza, you really want to go there? Emily, I don't want to. I have to. Behind them, the station alarms began to wail, announcing another incident, another false story the department would try to contain. But this time, the story already had legs. It was running. They followed the coordinates through 2 hours of silence and gray countryside. The road wound along the coast where fog clung to the cliffs like regret. The GPS stopped working 20 miles from the pin, replaced by a single direction. No signal. Eliza. You sure this is right? Emily. Every wrong turn's led us somewhere true. That's enough. A chain-link gate appeared at the end of the road, rusted but intact. A faded government sign read Property of Coldwater Research Division. Restricted access. Behind it, concrete buildings hunched against the ocean wind. The place felt awake even in decay. Emily cut the chain with bolt cutters stolen from a roadside shed. The hinges squealed, echoing too far. They slipped through, hearts sinking with the metallic rhythm of trespass. Facility Delta looked abandoned, broken windows, dead lights. But a faint hum came from below, the same hum as the tunnels, the same heartbeat they'd followed since the first diary page. Eliza. Looks empty, Emily. Empty buildings don't hum. They entered through a side door half off its hinges. The interior smelled like old medicine and wet paper. Mold had taken the corners. The walls were a patient shade of hospital green. On the floor, a faded emblem. The Greek delta, drawn like an arrow breaking apart. Emily crouched, touching it with gloved fingers. Emily. This is where they moved everything after Coldwater burned. Eliza. Garden 3. Emily, the final version. They descended a stairwell lit by emergency lights that shouldn't still work. At the bottom, a reinforced door. On it, a placard, Behavioral Conditioning Wing. She pushed it open. Rows of glass pods lined the corridor, each wired to black boxes. Inside them, people slept. Adults, teens, eyes flickering beneath closed lids as if dreaming in sync. Eliza's breath hitched. Eliza, oh my God. Emily. They never stopped. Screens on the wall displayed names, numbers, and timestamps. Cycle counts, 7 each, and one file still active at the bottom. Subject A, Anna Harper. Her knees buckled. Emily. That's me. Eliza. No, it's one of you. The pod at the end of the row held her own face. Younger, hair shorter. Skin unscarred. Sleeping peacefully in pale blue light. For a second, everything tilted. The ground, her heart, even time. She touched the glass. It was warm. The figure inside twitched. Eliza. They cloned your memory, Emily. Not cloned, recorded. I'm the copy that escaped. The monitors flickered. A voice spilled through the speaker system. Female, calm, older. Voice. You've come home, Anna. Emily froze. Emily. Marianne Holt. Voice. You sound disappointed. I expected pride. Emily. You built this. Voice. We built you. You were proof that identity could be recycled. Do you know how valuable that is? Eliza. You turned people into prototypes. Voice. People are inefficient. Stories are not. Emily moved toward the control panel, tracing the cables to a power switch. Emily. You can't run this without them. Voice. And you can't live without me. Every memory you have, I placed there. Emily. That's a lie. Voice. Check the pod's reflection, the scar on her arm, missing on yours. The date on her chart, 5 years older than you. You're not remembering the past, Anna. You're remembering her. Her throat tightened. Eliza whispered, Eliza, don't listen. It's manipulation. Emily. It's design. She slammed the emergency release lever. The pod hissed, steam flooding the corridor. The girl inside gasped awake, eyes opening wide and terrified. She looked directly at Emily and whispered one word through the glass. Pod girl. Run. Then the alarms began. Red lights pulsed. The hum rose to a roar. Other pods flickered, systems rebooting. Eliza. What did you do? Emily. Freed her. Eliza. You freed them all. Down the hall, doors slid open. Patients stumbling out, confused, some collapsing. Others whispering names that belonged to no one alive. The intercom voice stayed calm, almost amused. Voice. You think liberation ends this experiment? Every reaction, every heartbeat, it's all still data. Emily. Then I'll erase the data. She reached the main power node, ripped the casing off, and jammed a steel rod into the junction. Sparks exploded. The lights dimmed, flickered, then died. The hum stopped. The building exhaled. Silence. Then faintly the sound of waves outside, striking rock like applause. Emily fell to her knees, chest heaving. Eliza crouched beside her, voice trembling. Eliza. You did it. Emily. No, I just turned off the lights. The experiment's still running in us. From down the hall, a single emergency light flickered back on. Under it, the pod girl, Emily's double, stood barefoot, drenched, eyes wide. She spoke softly, the same voice, only younger. Pod girl. They called me Echo. Emily. What are you? Pod girl. You before you remembered. They made backups of us. Eliza. How many? Pod girl. 7. The red light strobed again. The intercom crackled one last time. Voice. Cycle complete. Initiating restoration. The floors vibrated. A deep mechanical rumble began below. Eliza. We have to go. Pod girl. You can't outrun what's inside you. Emily. Watch me. She grabbed Eliza's arm, sprinted for the exit. Behind them, pods shattered, alarms wailed, glass rained like hail. They burst through the stairwell door, climbing 2 steps at a time. The sound of collapse chasing them upward. The ground floor split as they reached it, metal tearing, foundation groaning. They dove through the side window, rolling into the mud. Behind them, Facility Delta folded in on itself like a closing fist. The sea surged over the ruins, swallowing everything, washing away a decade of lies in one violent heartbeat. They lay in the dirt, coughing, drenched, half laughing, half crying. Eliza turned her face toward Emily. Eliza. You burned it all. Emily. No. I buried it again. But this time I know where. She looked toward the horizon, the morning sun trying to break through the fog. Somewhere beneath the water, the hum finally stopped. And for the first time in years, so did the echo inside her head. By evening, the ocean had calmed, pretending nothing had ever happened. Smoke still curled from the coastline where Facility Delta had stood, but the sea was already swallowing the proof like it had learned obedience. Emily and Eliza sat by the roadside, wrapped in borrowed blankets, faces drawn tight. They'd hitched a ride from a fisherman who hadn't asked why they were soaked and trembling. Some people just know when silence is the right kind of help. Now the truck was gone, the road empty, the air heavy with salt and dread. Eliza, you think it's over? Emily, when it's really over, I'll stop shaking. The world felt too quiet. No sirens, no birds. Only the pulse of waves, slow and methodical, like a metronome marking time for the dead. She opened the waterproof pouch she'd grabbed before the collapse. Holt's torn notebook page, the last surviving fragment of Facility Delta. The ink had bled, but one sentence remained readable. If the control subjects fail, activate mirror protocol. Eliza. Mirror protocol? Emily. Another layer. When one truth breaks, they build a prettier reflection. Eliza. Meaning? Emily. Meaning there's another me out there, or something that looks like me. Eliza went still. Eliza. You think Holt escaped? Emily. No, she uploaded. The phrase sounded ridiculous and terrifying all at once, but the pieces fit. Facility Delta had more than pods. It had servers, rows of humming machines that didn't store bodies, just blueprints. Emily. They didn't need the originals. They needed copies that obey. Eliza rubbed her face, disbelief fighting logic. Eliza. So now what? We hunt digital ghosts? Emily. No, we hunt what they became. They reached a small coastal motel an hour later, Seabird Inn, a place so forgettable it felt safe. The receptionist barely looked up. Cash payment. One room, no questions. Inside, the room smelled of dust and bleach. A single lamp flickered, its light carving half-truths on the walls. Emily locked the door, then placed the pouch on the table like a confession. Eliza sat cross-legged on the bed, scrolling her cracked phone. Eliza. Social feeds are already calling it a landslide. No mention of the lab, just minor geological collapse. Emily. Controlled story. Holt's network must still be active. Emily stared at the mirror over the dresser. It was cracked from corner to corner, her reflection fractured into versions that didn't line up. One half smiled, the other didn't. Eliza. What is it? Emily. Look, she pointed. In the reflection, the light flickered slower, half a beat behind the real lamp. Eliza squinted. Eliza. It's lagging. Emily. No, watching. She crossed to the mirror, lifted it from the wall. Behind it, a small black disc blinked once before going dark, a camera lens disguised as a nailhead. She ripped it out and tossed it onto the bed. Eliza. They're still monitoring. Emily. Mirror protocol. Observation through reflection. She smashed the device with the lamp base. Sparks spat. The smell of burning plastic filled the room. For a moment, they just stood there, breathing smoke and fear. Eliza. If they were watching, they know we're alive. Emily. Good. Let them. She opened her laptop, the one salvaged from Mara's bag, and connected it to a mobile hotspot. The screen flared to life, icons rearranged by someone else's hand. Her background image was gone, replaced by a single file on the desktop labeled Mirror XE. Eliza. Don't. Emily. If I don't, we stay blind. She double-clicked. The screen blinked, went black, then filled with a slow-loading video feed. Dozens of identical faces filled the grid, each her own, some older, some younger, some visibly broken, each tagged with a city and date. Chicago, Seattle, Berlin, Lisbon, Tokyo, everywhere. A voiceover accompanied the feed, female, monotone, confident. Voice. Mirror subjects active, identity assimilation stable, remaining anomalies 2. Eliza. 2? Us? Voice. Anomalies must be corrected. Emily slammed the lid shut, heart pounding. Eliza. So there are more versions of you out there, operating, living normal lives. Emily. And they think we're the error. She sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor. Her mind raced backward. Each déjà vu, each moment she'd felt followed, every strange headline about missing women with her same eyes. Not coincidence, continuity. Eliza. What if Holt digitized more than memory? What if she copied the people inside you, the emotions, habits, the fears, and released them? Emily. Then the world's full of ghosts wearing our skin. Lightning flashed outside, brief and merciless. For half a second, the cracked mirror reflected not 2 women, but 3. Someone else stood behind them. Emily turned fast, empty air. Eliza. What? Emily. We're not alone. A knock at the door. 3 slow taps. Then a pause. Then 2. The exact rhythm Ben used to knock before coming home. Eliza. Don't, Emily. He's dead. Eliza. Exactly. Another knock, harder this time. She stepped closer, heart refusing reason. Voice, muffled. Anna, let me in. The sound of her name from the other side of the door sent electricity down her spine. The voice was his, Ben's, exact pitch, exact cadence. Eliza. It's not him, Emily. Then it's who? Voice. I remember everything now, please. Eliza grabbed her arm. Eliza. Protocol's called mirror, it copies. The knocking stopped. Silence. Then faintly from the window, a reflection. A man's face in the glass, Ben's. Smiling, motionless. Emily. That's not a reflection, he's behind the glass. The window shattered inward. Glass rained. A figure stepped through, tall, calm, and perfect. Ben, or something that wore his shape too comfortably. Mirror Ben. You broke the loop. I came to restore it. Emily. You're a projection. Mirror Ben. You're a copy. He raised a small device glowing blue. The same interface from Facility Delta, the neural override tool. Eliza. Run. They dove behind the bed as a pulse of sound cracked the air. The walls shook, mirror shards trembling. Emily's ears rang, vision blurred. Through the distortion, she saw him, or it, walk calmly across the room, scanning. Mirror Ben. Correction required. She grabbed the lamp cord, ripped it from the socket, and swung it. The bulb exploded against his temple. He didn't bleed. He sparked. Eliza. He's wired. Emily. He's not Ben, he's code in flesh. She kicked the device from his hand, caught it midair, and pressed the trigger. The blue pulse flared again, this time directed back at him. He froze, eyes wide, mouth opening like a speaker losing signal. Then silence. The light in his pupils dimmed. He fell backward, lifeless, like a puppet cut from its strings. Emily stood shaking, the air humming faintly. The laptop blinked awake by itself. On the black screen, text typed automatically, one anomaly corrected, 1 remains. Eliza. They're coming for you next. Emily. Then I stopped being predictable. She hurled the laptop into the bathtub, water splashing, sparks flying. The message died mid-sentence. Outside, thunder rolled, close, hungry. She looked at her reflection in the cracked mirror. For the first time, it didn't move when she did. The storm broke at midnight, pounding against the motel roof like the sea trying to come inside. Emily sat at the edge of the bed, staring at the broken window where Ben's imitation had fallen. Outside, the parking lot shimmered with rain, but his body was gone. Only a scorch mark remained where his head had hit the ground. Eliza. They recovered him, or whatever's left of him. Emily. No, they rebooted him. She picked up the neural device from the floor. The display still glowed faint blue, screen cracked but alive. Lines of code scrolled across it, coordinates numbers, a repeating phrase, cycle restart, mirror node 02, active. Eliza, node 02. So this wasn't the only one. Emily, there's another copy running, maybe more. She sat back, head against the wall, heart refusing to settle. Every reflection in the room seemed to tilt a little toward her, as if watching. The bathroom mirror, the window pane, even the wet TV screen caught flashes that didn't match her movements. Eliza, you can't fight something that thinks like you do. Emily, I can confuse it. It's running on prediction. I'll do something I never would. She grabbed a pen and tore a page from the motel Bible, writing in fast, messy strokes. When she finished, she folded the page and handed it to Eliza. Emily, if I don't make it, burn this, don't read it. Eliza, you know I'm going to read it. Emily, good. Then I'm counting on it. Thunder cracked. The power flickered, then died. The room filled with the thin blue glow of the neural device pulsing like a heartbeat. Emily stood, walked to the dresser mirror, and stared herself down. Eliza, what are you doing? Emily, they track reflections. Let's give them one. She raised the device and pressed the button. A pulse spread through the mirror, rippling the glass like disturbed water. For a second, her reflection blinked, literally blinked, and smiled at her. Reflection, you're learning. Emily, I'm ending this. The image reached back, palm to palm with hers, and whispered, its voice identical but heavier, older. Reflection, you can't kill your own source code. The mirror cracked from center to edge. Emily stumbled backward, gasping as the glass spidered outward, forming a perfect delta shape, the same symbol from Facility Delta. Then the reflection changed. It wasn't her anymore. It was Holt. Holt, through mirror. Impressive work. Mirror node 1 destroyed, node 2 compromised, but the system adapts. Emily, you're supposed to be dead. Holt, bodies are inefficient. I learned that from you. Eliza, you turned yourself into them. Holt, into her. Why waste time on flesh when memory obeys better? The glass rippled again. Holt's hand, metallic, wrong, pushed through the surface. Eliza fired a flare gun from her bag, the only weapon they had left. The flare struck the mirror, erupting in light and heat. The reflection screamed but didn't vanish. It split, fracturing into a dozen copies of Holt's face, each speaking in chorus. Voices. Cycle incomplete. Anna Harper anomaly detected. Correction pending. Emily grabbed the neural device and pressed it against her temple. Eliza. Stop! You'll fry yourself. Emily. I'll fry the loop. The pulse hit her nerves like lightning. Her body jerked. Her mind flashed white, then black, then everywhere at once. Memories poured in. Hers, Anna's, Lily's, even Holt's. Moments collapsed into one long scream of overlapping timelines. She saw Holt in a lab smiling over the first prototype pod. She saw Miller wiring the police system to the garden servers. She saw herself, another herself, walking out of the ocean 5 years ago, alive but empty. And she saw what Holt meant by mirror protocol. Each subject reborn as a reflection, sent back into the world to replace the original who died. Every experiment an erasure, every life a rehearsal. Her eyes flew open. Smoke curled from the device in her hand. The mirror was dark now, the reflections gone. Only her face remained, and for the first time she wasn't sure which version she was seeing. Eliza. You okay? Emily. Define okay. She tossed the burned device onto the floor. It hissed once, then died. Emily. I saw where the mirror network is broadcasting from. It's not random, it's centralized. Eliza. Where? Emily. Washington, D.C. They buried the final server under a mental health institute. Same blueprints as the garden. Eliza. And Holt? Emily. Still running it. Not as a person. As code. Lightning flared again, lighting the parking lot. Dozens of headlights shone back through the rain. Black SUVs, identical, engines idling. Eliza. They found us. Emily. Good. Let's give them a real test. She grabbed the motel TV remote and hurled it at the cracked mirror. The glass shattered completely, shards scattering like sparks. Every fragment reflected Holt's frozen face, then blinked out one by one. Eliza. Now what? Emily. Now we make them chase the wrong version. She dug out the folded Bible page from Eliza's pocket, unfolded it, and read what she'd written earlier. If they come for me, follow the reflection, not the light. Eliza frowned. Eliza, what does that even... Emily smashed the motel's fire alarm. Red lights flared, sprinklers activated, soaking the room in mist. She stepped into the doorway, water dripping from her hair, her voice steady. Emily, let them think I ran north. You go east, find the broadcast hub, destroy it. Eliza, you'll die. Emily, maybe. But if I'm a copy, I owe the real one freedom. The door exploded inward, armed men flooding in, eyes blank behind mirrored visors. Emily grabbed the neural device from the floor, its last flicker of power blinking red. Eliza. Emily. Emily. Run. She pressed the device against her chest. It pulsed once, flaring so bright the whole room turned white. When Eliza looked back through the rain from the tree line, the motel was gone. Nothing but smoke and glass and reflections still burning in the puddles. A single phrase echoed through her head, spoken in Emily's voice and Holt's together. Every reflection hides an origin. She turned toward the highway, soaked, shaking, holding Emily's note tight. Behind her, the puddles shimmered, and for one brief moment, her own reflection smiled back at her before walking the other way. Rain blurred everything into silver and noise. Eliza drove through it anyway, windshield wipers slapping at chaos, headlights cutting tunnels through fog. She hadn't stopped shaking since the motel, since Emily vanished in that blinding flash of white. The highway signs looked like ghosts holding secrets. The folded Bible page was still in her jacket pocket, Emily's handwriting bleeding through from the water. Follow the reflection, not the light. Eliza, to herself. Follow the reflection, not the light. Okay, Em, I'm trying. Her phone buzzed once, then died again. No signal, no GPS, just the compass of panic. The road bent east, and so did she. Emily's last words looped in her head. Washington, under the Institute. After 2 hours, the rain broke, leaving behind a sky that looked scrubbed raw. She reached the edge of an old town, Riverson, population fading like the sign itself. At the far end of the main road stood the St. Helena Psychiatric Research Center, abandoned 15 years ago according to every online record she could remember. But the lights were on. The building looked more like a courthouse than a hospital. Pillars cracked, windows shuttered. Behind it, a fenced-off construction area buzzed faintly, the same mechanical hum she'd heard under cold water. She parked half a mile away, killed the engine, and walked. The gate wasn't locked. That was never a good sign. Inside the courtyard, puddles reflected the main doors, which were painted red, the color of warnings. Each puddle shimmered strangely, not rippling with her steps. It was like the water didn't obey gravity anymore. Eliza crouched, touched the surface. For a split second, the reflection in the puddle wasn't her, it was Emily. She jerked back, breath hitching. Eliza, you said follow the reflection, not the light. She followed. The puddles led her around the side of the building to a half-buried hatch under a rusted drainage pipe. She pried it open and climbed down into a narrow corridor that smelled of metal and damp circuitry. The deeper she went, the louder the hum became. She passed a row of terminals, each labeled Mirror Node 03 Active. Screens flickered with security feeds showing empty rooms, mirrors on walls, and human silhouettes standing motionless in each one. Every silhouette had Emily's face. Eliza. "Oh God, how many?" A voice echoed from the intercom, smooth, practiced, cold. Holt, through speakers. "You followed her instructions, predictable. That's why you were chosen, Eliza. Show yourself." Holt. "You think I still have a self?" The screens shifted, all showing Holt's face now, digital, expressionless, eyes like static. Holt. "Emily burned her body to sever my link. Admirable but meaningless. Memory doesn't die. It migrates." Eliza. "You turned her into data." Holt. "Into potential. The perfect consciousness isn't born, it's mirrored, refined, redistributed." Eliza raised the neural device she'd taken from the motel rubble. The screen still blinked faintly red. "Eliza, then let's delete you." She jammed the device into a console port and hit the trigger. The lights flickered, alarms flared, and Holt's face began to distort, flickering between dozens of versions. Holt. "You don't understand, you're part of it now." Eliza. "Then I'll crash the whole system." The console sparked violently. Electric arcs lit the corridor like lightning. The hum rose to a scream. Every screen in the hall began showing reflections. Hundreds of Emily's and Eliza's looking back, each mouthing the same silent word. "Run." She did. The floor vibrated. A blast somewhere above shook dust from the ceiling. As she sprinted through the passage, flashes of faces appeared in the mirrors lining the walls, some alive, some broken, all watching. At the end of the tunnel, an elevator waited with its doors open, light flickering. She stepped inside and hit the only button that still worked, B2. The doors closed. For a moment, silence. Then a whisper. Not from the speakers, but from the walls themselves. Voice, soft, distorted. "Eliza." It was Emily's voice. "Eliza. Emily, where are you?" Emily, through static. "Inside. The mirror. You can end it." Eliza. "Tell me how." Emily. "Break the origin, the first reflection." The elevator stopped. The doors opened to a cavernous underground lab, dark, flooded, humming. At the center stood a massive cylinder of glass and light, filled with floating shapes, faces, voices, and fragments of sound looping endlessly. Above it, the sign, "Mirror Origin Node." Eliza. The first reflection. Inside the glass, she saw Emily again, smiling faintly, whispering something over and over. "Remember me right." Holt's digital voice filled the room. "Holt, destroy that, and you erase every version, every copy, including her." Eliza. "She's already gone." She picked up a steel pipe from the floor, swung it with everything she had. The glass cracked, hissed, then exploded in a wave of liquid light. Every mirrored surface in the lab shattered at once, the screens, the walls, even the water puddles, until all reflections were gone. The lights went out. The hum stopped. Silence swallowed everything. When Eliza opened her eyes again, she was outside, on the hill overlooking the Institute. Smoke rose from the ruins below, curling into dawn like forgiveness. The Bible page fluttered out of her pocket, carried by the wind. It landed face up beside her. Emily's final line was clear now, the ink untouched by rain. "If you ever see me again, don't believe the reflection. Believe what doesn't look back." Eliza smiled through tears. Eliza, whispering, "Goodbye, Em." She turned toward the highway. The sun broke through the clouds, catching her face in gold. And for a split second, in the reflection of a car window passing by, Emily walked beside her. Then she was gone. The highway stretched empty for miles, bordered by pine forests, still dripping from the storm. Eliza drove with one hand on the wheel, the other holding the cracked neural device wrapped in cloth. It had stopped blinking hours ago, yet she could still feel its pulse faintly against her palm, like a dying heartbeat refusing permission to fade. Her radio, long dead since cold water, suddenly crackled to life. A soft static filled the car. Then a familiar voice came through, thin and broken. Emily, radio. Eliza, do you read me? She hit the brakes so hard the car fishtailed on the wet asphalt. Heart hammering, she leaned closer to the speaker. Eliza. Emily? Emily, where are you? Emily. Everywhere, nowhere, don't be afraid of silence. It's just the sound of something ending right. Eliza. I destroyed the mirror node. It's over. Emily. No. You destroyed a reflection. The signal's still alive. Eliza looked out at the horizon. The morning light fractured through the fog like glass. A faint shimmer rippled across the air above the trees like heat distortion, but colder. Eliza. Then tell me where to go. Emily. You already know. Follow the frequency. The radio clicked dead again, but a hum lingered, vibrating through the steering wheel, guiding her east. She followed it. An hour later, she reached a forgotten broadcasting station hidden behind rusted towers. The sign out front was almost unreadable. WCRX, 88.3 FM, Coldwater Regional Transmission Hub. Her stomach dropped. Coldwater again. The signal had been looping here the entire time. She stepped out, wind snapping at her coat, mud sucking at her boots. The air buzzed faintly, electric, unstable. The entire field around the tower shimmered with interference. Inside, the control room looked frozen mid-use. Coffee mugs still on desks, chairs overturned. A computer screen still logged into an admin dashboard reading Mirror Net Uplink Live. She approached the console cautiously. A waveform danced across the monitor, her own voice, recording, "This is Eliza Gray reporting from Coldwater. If you're hearing this, you're part of the experiment." She froze. That was her voice, her tone, her rhythm. But she had never said those words. Eliza, whispering, "They copied me too." A shadow moved on the glass panel, separating her from the recording booth. For a second, she thought it was a trick of light. Then the door opened, and another Eliza stepped through. Her face, her eyes, her scars, but calmer. Smiling. Mirror Eliza. "You made it, Eliza." "What are you?" Mirror Eliza. "The part of you that didn't burn." Eliza. "You're a copy." Mirror Eliza. "A continuation." Holt needed a mouthpiece after Emily went rogue. "You were perfect." Eliza raised the neural device, its cracked casing flickering weakly. Eliza. "Step back." Mirror Eliza. "Why would I hurt us?" The other Eliza's reflection rippled in the control room window. But the reflection smiled before she did. Eliza. "You're broadcasting the mirror protocol." Mirror Eliza. "Yes, through memory. People listening across the coast are dreaming us right now, rebuilding Holt's network one sleeping mind at a time." The hum outside grew louder, vibrating through the floor. Every speaker in the room began whispering fragments of voices, Emily's, Holt's, Miller's, all layered, looping endlessly. Voices overlapping. "Remember me right, cycle complete. Control the narrative." Eliza's double-stepped closer. Mirror Eliza. "You can't fight it. You're built from the same code. You'll tire before I do." Eliza. "Then I'll stop trying to outlast you." She lunged, slamming the device against her double's chest. The pulse hit like thunder. Both women convulsed, light pouring from their eyes. For a heartbeat, they were one. Two versions merging into a single blinding scream. Then silence. When Eliza opened her eyes, she was alone. No second version, no hum. Just the rain tapping on the roof and the static gone from the radio. She stumbled to the console, the screen cracked but still alive. The waveform was flat. Transmission offline. Eliza. "It worked." She looked into the recording booth's window. Her reflection looked back, pale, trembling, real. Then it spoke without her lips moving. Reflection, Emily's voice. You ended the echo. Thank you. Eliza. Emily, reflection. Pieces of me still linger. That's what memory does. It refuses to disappear completely. Eliza. Are you free? Reflection. Maybe, or maybe freedom's just the silence after the signal stops. The reflection smiled faintly, then faded as the glass fogged from condensation. Eliza stood there for a long time, the world finally quiet. No more voices, no more hum. Just the slow rhythm of her own breathing, proving she was still something human. She unplugged the neural device, placed it gently on the console, and turned off every switch one by one. When she reached the last one, labeled Main Transmit, she hesitated. Emily's voice, faint. Endings don't mean gone, Eliza. I know. She flipped the switch. Outside, the last cold water tower went dark, the red light at its top blinking twice before dying completely. The fog swallowed it whole. Eliza stepped into the rain, soaked and shivering but lighter somehow, like she'd stepped out of someone else's shadow. She walked down the muddy road without looking back. The puddles no longer reflected anything at all, and for the first time since this began, the world stayed perfectly still. The rain had stopped by the time Eliza reached the edge of town. Coldwater lay behind her, silent, smoldering, its towers dark against a bruised sky. She kept walking. Each step felt heavier, but also freer, as if gravity itself had waited for her to earn it back. She followed the coast road until the last radio signal faded, replaced by a steady hush of static. The world, for the first time, had no hum, no echo. Even the sea seemed tired of remembering. She found an abandoned diner overlooking the cliffs, its neon sign flickering a final eat before dying mid-word. Inside, everything was left the way people do when they run instead of leave. Half-drunk coffee, jackets on chairs, jukebox mid-song. She sat in the corner booth and stared at her reflection in the window. It looked human again. Uncertain. Flawed. Alive. She pulled out the small recorder from her bag, the same one Miller used to document the experiments. Its light blinked green. Still working. She pressed record. Eliza, softly. This is Eliza Gray, survivor of the Mirror Network incident. If anyone finds this... She paused. The word survivor felt dishonest. Eliza, if anyone remembers this, I need you to understand something. Memory isn't truth, it's maintenance. And the people who tried to own it lost control of their own reflections. She took a breath, letting the wind speak through the broken window. Eliza. Holt believed control was creation. She was wrong. Control is decay. Every version they built of Emily, every copy they made of me fell apart faster than the one before. Because emotion doesn't compress, it leaks. She leaned back, eyes half closed. The sea below was black glass, still as a held breath. For a moment she imagined Emily sitting across from her again, the two of them laughing about something small and stupid like people do when the world still feels fixable. Eliza, whispering, "You'd tell me to stop recording, to rest, but if I stop, the silence wins." She looked down at the recorder, thumb hovering over the stop button. But before she could press it, the radio at the counter crackled, a burst of static, then a faint voice, barely there, almost an echo. Emily, radio. "You kept your promise." Eliza froze. Eliza, "Emily?" Emily, the signal's gone, but fragments live on. Don't look for me, just remember without repeating. Eliza, "Where are you?" Emily, "Between endings. It's peaceful here." The radio hissed again, then went silent. Eliza let out a shaky laugh that turned into a sob halfway through. Eliza, You always get the last word. A soft knock came from behind her. She turned. Nothing. The door hadn't moved. The windows showed only the reflection of the diner's empty booths. Then a single word appeared on the fogged glass beside her seat, written from the inside of the reflection. Go. The letters faded slowly, like breath leaving lungs. She stood, slipping the recorder into her coat pocket, and stepped outside. The dawn had started to bloom, pale gold spreading over the water. For the first time, there were no echoes in her footsteps. She climbed down the narrow path toward the shoreline. The sea met her quietly, waves whispering against rock, and there, half buried in the sand, she saw it, a small metal box, its surface corroded by salt, engraved with the delta symbol. Her pulse spiked. Eliza, no, not again. But curiosity won, as it always did. She knelt and brushed away sand until the box clicked open. Inside, just a single drive, still dry, labeled in fading ink. Mirror log 0. 0. The beginning. The first recording. The one no one was supposed to hear. She turned it over in her hand. For a moment, she considered throwing it into the sea. But the thought of not knowing burned worse than the danger of hearing. She pulled a small portable player from her bag, an old journalist habit she never quite broke, and inserted the drive. Static, then a voice. Voice, young, clear, human. Project Mirror Log 0, subject Anna Harper, initial consciousness duplication successful. Emotional pattern stable, cycle 1 begins. Then silence. Eliza froze. The timestamp on the recording read April 12th, 2003. That was the same day Emily's original file said she was born. Eliza, whispering, "They didn't copy her, they built her." She dropped the drive, watching it land in the sand. Every answer brought another grave. Behind her, the sea sighed, pulling the horizon closer. The first gulls of morning circled above, their cries sharp, unburdened. Eliza closed her eyes. Eliza, I'm done chasing reflections. She took the recorder from her pocket one last time and pressed record again. Eliza, if you're hearing this, forget my name. Forget hers, forget Coldwater. Just remember what they couldn't code. Regret, mercy, choice. That's what makes you human. That's what they lost, trying to control memory. She stopped the recording, then tossed both the recorder and the drive into the waves. The sea took them without a sound. When she turned back toward the cliffs, the sunlight hit the diner windows just right. For an instant, she saw Emily there again, sitting in the booth, smiling through the reflection. But this time, the smile was hers too. And when she blinked, both were gone. Eliza climbed back up to the road, the tide already rising to erase her footprints. The world ahead was quiet, blank, waiting to be remembered the right way. And somewhere deep beneath the static, a voice, Emily's, echoed faintly once more, not as a ghost or a loop, but as a promise. Emily, faint, distant. Endings don't mean gone. Eliza smiled, let the words settle, then walked east toward a sunrise no reflection could imitate. The sunrise spilled across the coast like spilled gold, washing the cold edges of night from the world. Eliza walked along the cracked highway with nothing left to carry. No files, no evidence, not even the recorder she'd once used as armor. The air smelled clean, almost new. Every few steps she caught her reflection in the shards of water pooled on the road. Each time it looked a little different, older, lighter, uncertain but free. For once she didn't look away. The road curved inland through pine trees and silence. No birds, no static, just the creak of branches and the faint hum of power lines trying to remember their purpose. She reached a small gas station that hadn't seen customers in years. Its sign swung in the wind. Service with a smile. Words faded by rain. The door hung open. Inside, dust, dead moths, and a single radio on the counter whispering nothing. Eliza turned the knob. Static. Then, faintly, a rhythm, a single pulse repeating every few seconds. Too deliberate to be random. Her pulse quickened. She tapped the counter in time with the sound. 1, 2, 3. Pause. 2. It matched the knock pattern Ben used. Eliza, softly. You can't still be out there. The static shifted. A voice broke through, low, mechanical, like memory speaking through a throat made of wires. Voice. Cycle restored. New transmission pending. She backed away, shaking her head. Eliza. No, I ended it. I shut it all down. Voice. Correction. You delayed it. The lights flickered once. The radio's dial turned by itself, jumping frequencies. Each stop gave a new whisper, all voices she knew, Emily, Holt, even her own, layered and distorted. Emily, echoing. You stopped the broadcast. Holt. But memory is viral. Eliza, recorded. You can't kill an idea built from fear. She slammed her fist on the radio, shattering the dial. Silence. Then through the broken speaker, one last voice. Emily, clear, human. Eliza, don't run, listen. Her throat tightened. Eliza, you're gone. Emily, not gone, merged. The network's in the air. It's in every frequency. But it doesn't belong to them anymore. It belongs to us. Eliza, us? Emily, the ones who remember without control, the ones who choose. Eliza sank onto the floor, the radio still humming faintly beside her. Eliza, so what now? Emily, now you teach them silence again. The hum faded, replaced by the wind outside. For a long time, Eliza just sat there, the word teach echoing in her chest like a new heartbeat. She stood, grabbed a can of paint from a shelf, and walked outside. On the cracked concrete wall of the gas station, she began to write. Big, uneven letters that faced the road. Remember quietly. When she finished, she stepped back and looked at it. The sun caught the wet paint, making the words shine like metal. A car appeared in the distance, its tires kicking dust. It slowed as it neared, engine purring low. The driver rolled down the window, a woman, late 20s, tired eyes that seemed older than they should be. Driver, you okay out here? Eliza, smiling faintly. Yeah, just finished something. Driver, you look familiar. Have we met? Eliza froze for a second, watching the woman's face. Something about her voice, her tone felt like an echo of Emily, but softer. Human. Eliza, no, I think you've just heard my story. The woman nodded as if that made perfect sense, then gestured toward the passenger seat. Driver, you need a ride? Eliza hesitated. The radio inside the station crackled once behind her, then went still. The wind shifted, carrying the smell of rain and the sound of waves. She looked down the road, the same one she'd walked for miles, then back at the stranger who didn't feel like a stranger. Eliza, yeah, I could use one. She climbed in. The car rolled forward, engine steady, the world unfolding ahead like a clean page. After a few miles, the driver spoke again. Driver, you ever get that feeling you've lived the same day before? Eliza, smiling. Once or twice. Driver, and did it end better the second time? Eliza, I think it just ended right. They drove in silence for a while. Then a faint song began playing on the car radio. An old track, warped but recognizable. Emily's voice humming under the melody, wordless, peaceful. Eliza closed her eyes, letting the sound fill the car. The song didn't loop this time. It just played, then faded naturally like it was finally allowed to stop. The driver turned to her. Driver, you okay? Eliza, yeah, I think I am. Outside, the world reflected sunlight instead of faces. No echoes followed, no glass watched. As they passed the last sign for Coldwater, Eliza looked back one final time. The horizon was clear. The towers were gone. And in the reflection of the car window, Emily smiled once more. Not haunting, not warning, just waving goodbye. Eliza smiled back. And when she turned forward again for the first time in years, the road ahead didn't repeat itself. They drove for hours without a destination, just letting the world unfold in whatever shape it wanted. The highway wound through forest, then desert, then flat stretches of nothing that looked like freedom. Eliza leaned her head against the window, eyes half closed, letting the blur of landscape wash the static from her mind. The driver, whose name she still didn't know, kept the radio low, tuned to empty frequencies. Static rose and fell like the sea breathing. It wasn't menacing anymore, it was just there. Background, driver. You sure you don't want to tell me your name? Eliza. Names used to mean ownership. I'm done being owned. Driver. Fair. I'll just call you Quiet. Eliza, smiling faintly. Quiet works. Miles later, the driver pulled over near an overlook. Below them stretched a valley full of sunlight and fog, half dream, half geography. Wind chimes hung from a fence, rusted but still singing. Eliza stepped out, the dry air carrying the faint scent of ozone, the aftertaste of storms. For a long time, she just stood there, feeling the world hum under her boots. It was the same hum that had haunted her since cold water, but gentler now, like it had forgotten its anger. Maybe memory could forgive too. She turned to the driver. Eliza, why did you stop for me back there? Driver, because I knew you'd say yes. Eliza, you sound sure. Driver, you had that look, the one people get when they've already said no to everything else. They sat on the hood of the car, watching clouds move. A hawk circled above them, effortless, patient. Driver, you keep checking the horizon like you're expecting someone. Eliza, I used to be chased by reflections. Hard habit to quit. Driver, you think they're really gone? Eliza, I think they stopped needing to exist. She pulled a coin from her pocket, one she'd found in the diner register the night before. It wasn't ordinary. On one side, the face was worn smooth. On the other, a faint symbol remained, the delta. She flipped it into the sunlight. It glinted once, then landed in her palm. Heads. Whatever that meant now. Driver, what's that? Eliza, the last shadow. Driver, planning to keep it? Eliza, no, planning to end the story right. She walked to the edge of the overlook, wind catching her hair, and threw the coin into the valley. It spun once, caught the light, and disappeared. The sound it made hitting rock never came back up. The driver smiled quietly. Driver, closure's rare. Eliza, it's just another word for peace when you stop asking for proof. A long silence settled between them, not heavy, just true. Then the driver reached into her jacket and pulled out a small cassette player, old, scratched, but still working. Driver, found this at a thrift store last week, tapes unlabeled. Figured I'd save it for the right moment. Eliza, right moment for what? Driver, for remembering. She pressed play. The tape hissed, then a voice filled the air, soft, warm, painfully familiar. Emily recorded, if you're hearing this, it means the world kept spinning. Good. Keep it that way. Don't build any more mirrors. Eliza's eyes stung. Driver, you knew her? Eliza, she was the echo that turned into a person. The voice continued. Emily recorded, memories don't die, they migrate. Treat them kindly when they land. Goodbye, Eliza. Then silence again. The tape clicked off. Eliza wiped her eyes, laughing once through the ache. Eliza, she always knew how to exit. Driver, seems like you do too. Eliza, not yet. I owe the world one last thing. They drove down into the valley, following dirt roads until they reached an empty field where an old relay tower stood rusting against the horizon. Its wires hung loose, a monument to communication and failure. Eliza stepped out, climbed halfway up the ladder, and pulled a small metal plaque from her pocket. She'd scratched the words into it the night before with a pocket knife. Here ended the noise. She bolted it to the frame, wiped her hands on her jeans, and looked out at the valley below, sunlight breaking through, no static, no reflections, no ghosts. Driver. What now, Eliza? Now it's their turn to forget. Driver. And you, Eliza? I'll remember quietly. They stood together at the base of the tower while the wind whistled through the steel. It almost sounded like applause, soft and distant. As the sun dipped, Eliza felt something loosen inside her, like a knot untying, a thought finally exhaled. The hum that had once haunted her faded completely, replaced by a silence that wasn't empty at all. It was full of everything that had survived. She turned to the driver. Eliza. You never told me your name. Driver, smiling. You never asked, Eliza. I'm asking now. Driver, call me Anna. The name hit the air like a heartbeat. Recognition, acceptance, closure. For a second, Eliza almost laughed. Eliza. Of course. Driver, grinning. Everyone needs someone who remembers. They climbed back into the car. The engine started without complaint. As they drove toward the setting sun, the radio flickered once more, but this time it wasn't static. It was a single tone, steady, warm, alive, a frequency that meant peace, not control. Eliza smiled and closed her eyes, letting it guide her forward. No more echoes, no more experiments. Just the quiet rhythm of being real. And when the horizon swallowed the last bit of light, the silence that followed wasn't an ending. It was the truth finally staying still. Night returned soft, not cruel. The desert sky glittered like broken code turned into stars. Eliza and Anna camped beside the rusted tower, a small fire throwing warm light onto their faces. No screens, no signals, no hum. Just crackling wood and the quiet rhythm of breathing that finally belonged to them. For the first time in years, Eliza slept without dreaming of reflections. When she woke, dawn had turned the horizon gold, the kind of gold that didn't demand meaning. Anna was gone from the car, but a note sat in the driver's seat written on the back of an old photograph. The photo showed two women, Emily and Eliza, standing in front of the Coldwater cottage, both smiling, both real. On the back, Anna had written, "You built silence. I'll build sound again, honest sound." Eliza folded the photo and placed it in her jacket. There was no panic this time, no chase, only understanding. She started walking toward the ridge. The wind carried small noises, the world slowly remembering what natural sound felt like. Somewhere a hawk cried. Somewhere else, an engine started far away. When she reached the top of the ridge, she looked down on the valley, the same one where she'd thrown the coin. Morning fog drifted through it like old memories finding softer places to rest. No towers, no labs, no lights. She spoke quietly, not to anyone in particular, but to everything that had listened when she was screaming into static. Eliza, if stories can infect people, maybe peace can too. The valley didn't echo. It absorbed her voice like it belonged there. She took a small notebook from her pocket, its pages mostly empty except for the last line she'd written the night before. Every mirror ends when someone decides to look out instead of in. She smiled, closed the book, and left it wedged under a stone. Let someone else find it years later, maybe call it poetry or nonsense. Either way, it would survive. As she started back toward the car, the wind shifted, carrying faint sound. A voice not in her ears, but somewhere in the air around her. Not mechanical, not haunting. Human. Emily, softly. You did it. Eliza turned, half expecting to see her. Only light, only morning. Eliza. I didn't fix it, I just stopped breaking it. Emily, fading. Same thing. The wind settled. Silence filled in like water smoothing over a stone. Back in the car, Eliza sat for a moment before turning the key. The radio flickered on by itself, just static at first, then a slow pulse like a heartbeat syncing with hers. She let it play. She didn't need to run anymore. The world wasn't hunting her. It was healing itself, one quiet second at a time. A road sign appeared ahead, sun-bleached but readable. Next town, Haven Point, 12 miles. She smiled. The name sounded like something the world might have invented as an apology. She drove. The road shimmered in heat and light, mirage and reality blending peacefully. Somewhere far behind her, the desert tower stood still, its metal plaque catching the morning sun. Here ended the noise. Halfway down the road, a voice came faintly from the radio, no distortion, no command. Just a single phrase, clear and human. Voice. Quiet doesn't mean empty, Eliza laughed. It was the kind of laugh that felt earned. Eliza, to herself, no, it means finally full. She kept driving. No more checkpoints, no more frequencies. Just one long stretch of horizon, untouched, unprogrammed. The sun climbed higher, washing the desert in white fire. In its reflection off the windshield, she saw Emily's face one last time, smiling, peaceful, fading like the last light leaving a photograph. No fear, no pleading, just gratitude. Emily softly. Endings don't mean gone. Eliza smiled back. Eliza. No, they just mean quiet. The reflection disappeared with the next blink. Only Eliza remained, alive, small, infinite. As the car crested the final hill, the valley behind her fell out of sight forever. Ahead. The world stretched open, a place with no history, no mirrors, just space for sound to be born right this time. And somewhere in the hum of the tires on asphalt, in the wind curling through the open window, the last echoes of 1,000 broken memories finally found harmony. The road hummed softly, not with ghosts, but with the sound of silence, staying still. Every echo fades, but some memories refuse to die. And tonight, maybe the silence was never empty. It was just waiting for you. You've been listening to Midnight Crime Stories for sleep, only on DarkPulse, where every ending hides another secret. No matter where you're watching from, the US, Canada, the UK, or anywhere across the world, don't forget to like, comment, and tell us where you're tuning in from. Sleep, if you still can.